Okay, welcome in everyone. Hopefully you hear me. Hopefully the sound is working. Please let me know if that's a thumbs up, yes or no. All right, everybody. Welcome in. Let's say hello and get started as quickly as possible. Happy Thursday to everyone. And if you're on the replay, who the hell knows what day it is, but you're in for a surprise, okay? You're in for a surprise. Today we will be taking a close look at the March 18th hearing regarding the leaks. Spoiler alert, the lies continued. The lies continued. The lies continued in the court. The lies continue out here in the world regarding the leaks. No one has told the whole truth about the leaks. All those who were participants have still refused to step up and take responsibility for their actions. Not only that, you have a dead guy, Mr. Kyle Fortson, Robert Kyle Fortson, who leaves behind a daughter and a wife tied up into these leaks. And you've heard nothing but lies, deflection, and failure to take accountability. And that's your spoiler alert, because throughout this hearing, truth did not come out about those leaks. It's actually, it's pretty mind-blowing. Yeah, it's pretty mind-blowing that with a dead guy and with the court of law, with all of that, we still don't have the truth about the leaks. So we're going to take a look at some of the claims and whatnot on this made during this March 18th hearing. And you won't learn much. Like I said, spoiler alert, not much to be learned because lies were told and truth was not. And hey, all I can say is we will pray. And perhaps someday the truth will come out about those leaks so that so that Mr. Kyle Fortson is honored in his death by the truth being told by those involved in the leaks. And that's all I've been asking for. So before we get into that, let me say hello to everyone who is here currently in the chat. If you're just lurking, please join the chat. It'll be a fun experience to be a part of the chat. All right, Four Pits was here. Lisa. There he is. Okay, Lisa was here. Lisa said, I'm in an appointment. We'll follow up. Anna Paula Baxter was here. Says, rise and shine, Pit. And Kayla's here. Welcome, Kayla. Good afternoon to everyone. I agree with that. Ellen Smith is here. Or Ellen West, I apologize. Ellen West, I got you mixed up with Bobby Smith. Ellen West, beautiful day in Illinois. Bobby Smith says, hello, Prof and Chat. Well, Ellen, it's not a 6-degree February day, so I think it's It's looking up. Old Mort, new Mort. On time for once. Well, great. Thanks for being here, and hello to you. All right. Sonic Landscape, welcome in. Amy, thanks for the flowers. Welcome in. I'm so glad you're here. Amy, please drop the support link so everyone can see how they can support the channel if they choose to. All right. Ronald Dawson, welcome in. Good afternoon to everyone from Maryland. Marianne Foster, welcome in. What up, Marianne? Bonnie, welcome in. What up, Bonnie? Hey, Brittany, welcome in. What up, Brittany? Carol, welcome in. Welcome in, Carol. Michelle, welcome in. And Captain Underpants, welcome in. All right, everyone, welcome in. Everyone lurking, join the chat. It's fun in there. I will get started. Okay, I'll get started. Allow me a moment to get myself together here, but unfortunately, there's probably a lot of reading involved, so here we go. Eating lunch, so can't type everyone's names today. Enjoy your lunch, Amy. All right, so give me one moment. Okay, so I'm going to do some reading, all right? So we're going to start off with, I guess on a sour note, we're going to start off with Mr. Stephen Mullen. Stephen Mullen, you know, who has a bad attitude, an attitude problem, and who has been purposely obfuscating and fucking up this discovery for the defense team so that they have a difficult time seeing through it, who may have also been part of removing certain items from discovery. We are not sure, but we know there are certain things that cannot be found that were there before. For instance, PowerPoint presentation that appeared to show the connections between Elvis Fields and Delphi. So that sort of thing, we're not too happy with Mr. Stephen Mullen about. A lifelong politician in the name of law enforcement. Anyhow, we'll start with some commentary from him, and then we'll get into some other pertinent individuals. And like I said, what you're going to find is the truth was not told about these leaks, and it's unfortunate. But rest in peace, Kyle Fortson. We're going to keep pressing on this. With the hopes that someday these people will tell the truth about you. Okay. Okay. So like I said, these are going to be highlights. There are so many pages to this document that there's absolutely no way I'm reading through it all. I'm not even reading through all of everyone's testimony. I'm going to choose certain portions that are relevant. And hopefully that'll do you the favor of not having to go listen to hours and hours and hours of this. But we'll try to make it through, even though it's a lot. So this is McClellan questioning Mullen. He says, are you familiar with an individual by the name of Brandon Woodhouse? Yes, I am. How are you familiar with him? Brandon Woodhouse has been arrested in Carroll County for various law offenses over the years. In other words, he's a regular. Okay. And is it fair to say he has a lengthy history, criminal history in Carroll County? Yes, he does. Now, Mr. Woodhouse came on your radar recently in March of 2023. Is that correct? Yes. How did he come on your radar during that time? I received a phone call from a person who identified herself as Dorina Hipsher. She informed me that there was a YouTube channel that Brandon had created. And did you go view the YouTube channel? I did. Well, I got to say this, first of all. He's leaving something out. Do you think that all she did was call and say, "Hi, Mr. Mullen, Brandon has a YouTube channel"? No, that's not what happened. She obviously called with some complaints to Mr. Mullen and saying that, hey, Brandon has a YouTube channel and XYZ. Okay, so that's what really happened, but they just glossed over that. What did you see on the YouTube channel? On the YouTube channel, I observed that Brandon Woodhouse had a screenshot of the evidence, listed evidence in the Richard Allen case. Okay, so pay attention to this, because this is going to be crucial, because a lot of people had this twisted. What that Brandon Woodhouse had discovery in it. Brandon Woodhouse had nothing of the sort. Okay, and you're going to learn. Have you viewed the evidence or discovery involved in the Richard Allen case? Yes, I have. Is it safe to say you're familiar with that evidence? Yes, I am. Well, you goddamn right he is. Okay. I'm going to show you what's marked as State's Exhibit B. Okay, I believe. Exhibit what? Exhibit 2. Okay. State's Exhibit 2. Can you describe that document? Yes, it's the same as I saw on Brandon Woodhouse's YouTube page. It's titled Richard Allen Thumb Drive Map. I can't speak today, sorry. Richard Allen Thumb Drive Map. And what was that? And was that the title of the document that you saw on Brandon Woodhouse's YouTube page? Yes, it was. Tell me, you told me the title. What does that document contain? It contains information concerning the Richard Allen case, witnesses and evidence for the case. No, it doesn't. See, they're misrepresenting the gravity of that particular document. As your role as an investigator, you've also been tasked by me, Nicholas McClellan, to assist the exchanging of discovery with the defense for a Richard Allen case. Is that true? Yes. In other words, you're helping to confuse the defense to make everything difficult for them in digging through a needle through a haystack, and fucking up and covering up for all of the deleting and the loss and the not only the malfeasance, but also the incompetence and all of the above. My practice, tell me, in the normal procedure that you would go through when you're exchanging discovery with the defense, my practice was to create an itemized list of the items that were given over to the defense, whether they be information files or whatever they were, and then have the defense and agent sign for the release of those items. And so you would draft a receipt or a list of the items you were handing over to the defense, and then have that defense sign once those items were picked up. Is that correct? Yes. Okay, I'm going to show you what's marked as State's Exhibit 3. Can you describe the document I handed you? It's a receipt which I drafted for the release of evidence. I titled it 1, 0, or 10, Allen. Can you outline the evidence, or is that a document you drafted? Yes, it is. And does it have both Attorney Rosley's and Baldwin's name on it? Yes, it does. And did that document describe evidence that you turned over to them as part of discovery? Yes, it was. And again, that's a document you drafted. Yes, it is. Okay. State moves to admit State's Exhibit 3. Okay. Hennessy objects. McClellan argues, and blah, 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 blah. Anyway, 3 was not admitted. Do you recall, as a part of discovery that you handed over to the defense, do you recall there being an interview with a professor from Purdue by the name of Jeffrey Turco? Yes, I do. Was it in an audio video interview, or what kind of interview was that? I believe it was an audio interview of Professor Turco that I handed over to the defense. And would you have gone through the same procedure when you handed over that evidence to the defense of making a receipt and documenting it, that in that receipt? Meaning, when I say that, meaning what discovery you're handing over to them? Yes, I would. And would you have had the representative from their office date it when they picked it up? Yes. Do you recall from memory that when the defense picked up the information, or when the defense picked up information concerning the interview with Professor Turco? I believe it was September the 27th. I don't have the document in front of me. Okay. Okay. So you believe they picked up that information on September 27th of 2023? Yes, September 27th of 2023. Okay. Cross-examination by Hennessy now. You first learned about the Brandon Woodhouse YouTube from Miss Hipsher. Yes, I was. What? And what she told you was that Brandon Woodhouse actually had Rick Allen's thumb drive, didn't she? Something to that effect, yes. See? And was that not true? No. And on YouTube, you saw the map of the thumb drive. Correct. And that simply identified what was on that thumb drive. Here we play stupid. Can you repeat the question, please? Okay, sure. The map simply identified what was on that particular thumb drive. I'm sorry, I'm not sure if I understand what you're trying to say. See, stupid again, playing stupid. Okay, I'll move on. So let's pause there, because there's a huge difference between evidence, which is the thumb drive, and the map, or the what you might call the index or table of contents of that thumb drive. Two different things, right? Am I right? Am I wrong? I mean, is the index or table of contents of a book the same as the contents of a book? If you listen to music, on the back of a CD, there's a list of the songs on the CD, okay? 1 through 12, whatever it might be. Is that the same as listening to the hour-long CD and every bit of data on that CD? No, it's not. Okay. So he's pretending to not know the difference. Okay. Do you organize discovery for the prosecutor? Yes. Do you make a list that's handy for him and his assistants to locate any particular piece of discovery? Answer: I create an itemized list of the items that we have as I go along. Yes. So that would be like a map for them to go find the actual piece of evidence. Something like that, yes. And this is exactly what you saw on YouTube, only it was for the defense, correct? What I saw on the YouTube channel was what I said earlier, and the picture shows was that it was. At the top, at the title at the top of the page, it said Richard Allen Thumb Drive Map. But it did not have any substance of what anyone said, correct? It showed a list of items and witnesses. Correct. But did it say what the witnesses had said? Correct. What? You see, Mullen here is playing mind games. He's playing mind games. If you can't tell what he's doing, something's wrong with you. Okay. So there's no substance to it. In that sense, yes. And then when did you see anything else on YouTube? Mr. Woodhouse was simply talking about the items on the list of items that were on the thumb drive, or what he called the thumb drive. Did he show any pictures? No. And then did you ever contact Mr. Woodhouse? I did not. Did you interview anybody else regarding the Woodhouse document? Other than Miss Hipsher, no. And you saw the actual email that was actually sent to the wrong recipient, Mr. Woodhouse? I don't believe I did. So you don't know that it was addressed to Brad and not Brandon? I don't know. Why did you not look at the actual email? I have enough to look at. I didn't have time to focus on any other issues other than this, and I handed my report over to the prosecutor. So you couldn't read a 4-line email, but you went through a multiple page thumb drive map? I looked at what was on the YouTube channel and transmitted that to the prosecuting attorney. Right, but you just told me you didn't have time to read a 4-line email that said Brad and not Brandon. You just didn't have time, right? I'm not sure if I understand your question. Okay, well, I'm asking you if you have just said today under oath that you just didn't have time to review the 4-line email that was addressed to Brad and not Brandon. Yes. Okay, so as you sit there, have no knowledge whether Mr. Baldwin intended to email Brandon Woodhouse, correct? As I said, I only looked at what I had in front of me. Right. So you have no information or knowledge that Mr. Baldwin intended to email Brandon Woodhouse. I don't know what his intent was. I'm sorry. The question is, and then there's objections from fucking McClellan, and it's argued. Okay. And of course, it's sustained by the judge, blah, blah, blah. After you spoke to Miss Hipsher, did you have, or did you report that to Mr. McClellan? Yes, I did. And what did he tell you? Document it. And why then did you go watch the YouTube? I already watched the YouTube when I reported it to Mr. McClellan. Okay, and then do you have information from anyone that Mr. Baldwin meant to send an email to Brandon Woodhouse? Okay. I don't know what his intent was. You see, Steve Mullen thinks he's a slick Rick. He thinks he's slick. He thinks he's slick. He's not slick. He's roadblocking. Right? He's roadblocking to the actual process. Of course, that's his job. He basically, eventually, after being pressed by both the attorney and the judge, he finally says no, he does not have knowledge that Baldwin meant to email Brandon. Okay. All right. So did you, no, so he said you did no other investigation regarding Westerman's photos or any other leaks. No. In your employment with the prosecutor of Carroll County, did you become aware of any other leaks or any investigation of other leaks? Okay. Of course, McClellan objects to that too, and the court sustains it naturally. Okay. Do you remember giving a deposition on March 1st? Yep. And were you under oath? Yes. And do you recall saying that Mr. Woodhouse was displaying screenshots in his YouTube video? Yes. So you did see some screenshots in the YouTube video. I saw the display on his laptop showing what I've already described as information contained in the Richard Allen thumb drive map. And then you took screenshots? I did. Okay. So here comes McClellan with a re-exam, okay, or redirect. The outline you saw in Mr. Woodhouse's YouTube, is that something you created and then handed over to the defense as part of discovery? No. And so have you ever seen the document prior to viewing it on Mr. Woodhouse's YouTube channel? I had not. And so it's not something that someone else created that you turned over as part of discovery. Is that correct? I did not create that document. Okay, when you saw the YouTube channel, the information in the probable cause, meaning the witnesses' names, was that information sealed? Do you know? I believe it was at the time. So the outline listed several witnesses, including some juvenile witnesses. Is that correct? It did. Okay. Now the recross by Hennessy. What was the date of the email? I don't know what the date of the email was. So you never saw an email. I never saw an email. So you don't know if it was before or after anything was sealed or unsealed. That would be correct. Okay. And then, Did you know that the affidavit with those names had been leaked by Gary Baudet, aka Fig Solves, before they were unsealed and before it was available to the defense? I don't know. Let's repeat that. Did you know that the affidavit with those names had been leaked by Gary Baudet, Fig Solves, before they were unsealed and before it was available to the defense? I didn't know. Okay, nothing further. All right. Now, uh, now hope you guys are ready to get insanely mad. All right, we're going to talk to Jerry Holman now, who I like to call Jerry Doughboy Holman. Okay. Are you familiar with the state? I mean, this is so fucking stupid. I'm going to skip it. Are you familiar with the case of Richard Allen? Of course. Stupid shit. What happened in the beginning of October 2023? I received a phone call from you. In other words, McClellan called Holman, stating that you had received, that means McClellan, information from Becky Patty that the crime scene photos were leaked. And once you were told that information, what did you do next? I started inquiring on what type of photos were leaked and tried to find out where they were being leaked from. And how did you go about finding out that information? Well, I received a phone call from Murder Sheet, who said they had also received photos. And they described those photos to me over the phone. When those photos were described to you, were you familiar with the photos they were talking about? Remember, this is Jerry Doughboy Holman speaking. Yes, I was. How were you familiar with those photos? One of the descriptions of the photos was one that Mr. Baldwin and Mr. Razi showed me in my deposition. And why was it unique enough that you could tell the photo from a description? It was a side-by-side that I'd never seen before that day, and it was created obviously by defense attorneys, as I recall seeing it that day, and that's the only time I ever saw that photo. And so from the description from those individuals you talked to, you recognize the photo as being something the defense had created. Yes. What did you do next? I believe I called you back to let you know that there was more than just what Becky Patty had told you. And from there, where did the investigation lead you? I talked again to Murder Sheet, who said that they knew who sent them the photos. Of course they fucking knew. Who sent them the photos? Mr. Mark Robert Cohen. And did you speak to Mr. Cohen? Later I did. Okay. But before that, I got more information from Murder Sheet. They stated that Mr. Hold on, let me. Objection. What did he say? Did you stop him there? Yes. And when you spoke to Murder Sheet, did you get documents from them? Yes. What documents did you get from them? They gave me several documents that were screenshots they received from Mr. Mark Robert Cohen with communication with Mr. Kyle Fortson. Okay, did you receive any pictures from them? Yes. And what pictures did you receive from them? The pictures that they stated that Mr. Mark Robert Cohen gave them. And when you got the pictures from them, did you recognize the photos? Yes, I did. And I don't want you to go into detail, but what are the photos of? Some of them were of the crime scene that, again, I knew had to come from the defense attorney because one of them was of Liberty and her private parts were blacked out. And they used a circle. And in all the ones that we ever used for any type of reason, we used rectangles. Okay. We're going to pause right here. see, guys, here's where you fucked up. Here's where you fucked up bad. Rick Snay. You fucked up with Rick Snay. Because Rick Snay had photos with squares and rectangles. Oh, yes, he did. You see, you fucked up with Rick Snay real bad. Because Rick Snay made two mistakes. Okay. First, he showed Julie Melvin the crime scene photos at a restaurant or bar. Not only that, when he showed those photos to Julie Melvin, those photos had squares and rectangles over Liberty German. You see, the prof spoke to everyone that he could regarding what they received and what kind of redactions were over Liberty German's private parts. Okay. And the most odd thing is just about everybody received the ones after Rick Snay had them, in which it is assumed he placed the ovular photo or the ovular type of circle. It's more of an oval than a circle, but it's more of a circle than an oval, so it's hard to describe. It's my belief, after investigating this, that Rick Snay placed the oval over the square that was on Liberty's private parts. Okay, so you fucked up real bad with Rick Snay, because Julie Melvin swears that when she was shown the photos on Rick Snay's phone in the bar in front of Laura Snay, the redaction over Liberty's body were both square or rectangular in shape. Interesting, though, because days later, when Rick Snay emailed the crime scene photos to Julie Melvin, a circle had magically appeared over Liberty's private parts. So what am I to believe? How would it make sense? Well, the only way it would make sense to me is that Rick placed that circle over the square. Okay, not only that, okay, you may remember that it was not long ago that Rick went on his YouTube channel and claimed that the photos he first received had squares and rectangles over Liberty German. Only to later backtrack after he realized he fucked up in saying that. He later backtracked and said, "Oh, I was mistaken. Oh, I was mistaken." Yeah, you backtrack, Rick, because it's all documented. It's all documented, Rick Snay. You fucked up bad. Not only you, whoever gave you those photos fucked up bad. Okay. Because the prof's going to come on here and tell the actual truth, because all of you fucking liars are disrespecting the death of Mr. Robert Kyle Fortson, who leaves behind a daughter and a wife who did not deserve to die over your fucking inability to control yourselves. So we got a problem here. We got a problem here, because unless Julie Melvin is absolutely fucking lying in claiming that the photo you initially showed her in the bar had a square over Liberty's private parts, we got a fucking problem. Okay. And you know what? You know what it was, Rick? It was that's something that would stick out to Julie, because when she observed that there were squares over the private parts of Liberty German's body, and when you later emailed her the same image and images, and that square had suddenly turned to a circle, or a circular oval, or ovular circle, however you want to describe it, it stood out to her. And she knew at that very moment that something wasn't right, that someone had did something. Now, logic would dictate it had to be you, unless you had both copies. So, Rick, I know you like to lie, but here's the fact. Either you placed the oval over the square that was covering Liberty German's genitalia, or you received two separate copies of the crime scene photos, one in which she's covered with a circle and one in which she's covered with a square. So you're going to have to make a decision, Rick. What lie are you going to tell now? Kyra de Bruin, what lie are you going to tell now? Because there's no way on earth that Julie is lying about that. She didn't know at the time that I was questioning her what I was looking for in my questions to her. Okay? When I spoke to Julie, I didn't tell her ahead of time, I'm trying to find out something about these squares versus circles. Oh, no, I didn't. I simply asked her to give me the narrative of exactly what transpired with you, Rick Snake. So, despite the lies being told in court and on your YouTube channel and elsewhere on the internet, I know one thing. You had crime scene photo of Liberty German directly from the prosecution or law enforcement. Let's continue reading. Can you tell the court as a group what these documents are? Photos that I received from Murder Sheet. And what do the photos show? Crime scene photos. Some of them are pictures of drawings of the crime scene. And do you recognize those photos? Yes, I do. And how do you recognize those photos? Again, they're crime scene photos and also photos that were presented to me in my deposition. Okay. Judge, I'm going to ask the court to admit what's been marked as State's Exhibit 5. I'm going to ask the court to admit those under seal. They're graphic crime scene photos. I did not transmit those to the defense. I told Mr. Hennessy I was not going to transmit those to him. Mr. Hennessy, let's see them. Mr. McClelland, I'm more than happy to have them look at those, but I would like those filed under seal, Judge. Any objection? Judge, yeah, I need to see them. Mr. McClelland, let me look at them. I've never received copies because I didn't want to, because I don't want to be sitting accused of contempt. I have no reason to object to them being placed under seal. All right, I will show 5 is admitted without objection, and I will seal. Okay, show him the photos, please. All right, I'll show 5 is admitted without objection. Okay. Now, Mr. Holman, if you recall, were those all the photos you received from Murder Sheet? No. Those are just the ones we admitted are just a portion of those? Yes. Okay, and again, the one specifically of the crime scene depicting Liberty, was that something that law enforcement created? No. And how do you know that? Like I said earlier, we use rectangles to block out private parts. And that one had a rectangle and a circle. So I knew it was not produced by any of us. When you saw that photo, did you recognize it though? Yes. Where did you recognize it from? It was a crime scene photo that was used and was taken from the scene. Was it also presented to you in a deposition? I believe so, yes. Same question with the side-by-side photo that showed Abby. Did you? Is that something law enforcement created? No. Did you recognize the photo? Yes. And how did you recognize it? It was shown to me in the deposition by Mr. Baldwin and Mr. Rozzi. Once you got these photos, what did you do? Once you got the photos and the information from Murder Sheet, what did you do from there? I notified you again of the photos and what my thoughts were, and then I scheduled a time to meet with Murder Sheet to take a statement and receive all the information they got from Mr. Mark Robert Cohen. As part of that information, the documents that you got from them during that interview, did those include screenshots of messages? Yes. And who were the messages between Mr. Mark Robert Cohen and Robert Fortson? How did you know they were between Mr. Cohen and Fortson? Well, I saw pictures of the Facebook pictures of Mr. Fortson, and Mr. Cohen told me they were. So you were able to identify from the messages Mr. Fortson? Yes. I'm going to show you what's been marked as State's Exhibit 6. Are you familiar with that bundle of documents? Yes, I am. And how are you familiar? Those are documents I received from Murder Sheet. And can you describe what those documents are? Not the content of them, but what they are. They are screenshots of communications between Mr. Fortson and Mr. Mark Robert Cohen on Facebook. How do you know that? Because I'm familiar with Facebook and it says Robert Fortson. Then it's also identifying Mr. Cohen. Do those accurately represent the documents you received from Murder Sheet? Yes. Okay. Admitted as Exhibit 6. All right. Is Mr. Fortson deceased? Pardon me? Jerry Holman. Fuck you. Is Mr. Fortson deceased? Yes, he is. Thanks, Jerry. Judge, I will object on hearsay. It's impossible for the defense to be able to cross-examine and confront the speakers. This is clearly communications between two people, neither of whom are available for cross-exam. Okay. The state does not believe it's hearsay, says McClellan. It's not going to the truth of the matter of the content in the statements. It's going to show that there was a conversation and there was a continued leak. If the court reads through the documents and reads through the statements of the document, there are messages where Fortson says or asks Cohen to protect him from distributing the information and to delete messages once he knows the investigation starts. So it's clearly statements against his interests. Okay. All right, let me skip ahead. What did you do next in the investigation? After receiving this information, like I said, I did an audio videotaped statement of Murder Sheet. Then I contacted Mr. Mark Robert Cohen. And did you interview him as well? Yes. And after you interviewed him, what did you do next? After I interviewed Mr. Cohen, I believed I interviewed Mr. Rick Snay. And between the interviews of these people, did you have an opportunity to go through the documents that were handed over to you? Yes. And the interviews that you conducted with those people, did it match the information you saw in those documents? Yes, it did. And after you talked to Mr. Snay, what did you do next? Mr. Snay advised me that he received objection, hearsay. It's okay. Who did you interview after Mr. Snay? Kyra De Bruin. And through your investigation, did you continue to gather information on how the photos were leaked? Yes. What was the purpose in interviewing those people? To determine the source? Yes. And once you saw the messages from Mr. Fortson, did you attempt to interview him? Yes, I did. Did you attempt to interview him about the things in that document? Yes. Did he give you any information? No. Did you attempt to subpoena his Facebook records to get a certified copy of those documents? We did. And when you examined his Facebook page, were those messages in there? I did not examine his Facebook messages, but Detective Rector did. Yes, you bet your ass he did. Okay. After you attempted to interview Fortson, who did you interview next? I attempted to contact Mr. Westerman after I interviewed Mr. Fortson. And so all the information you got from the investigation at this point, where did it tell you the leak was coming from? Mr. Westerman. Okay, but remember, he didn't get anything from Fortson. Nothing from Fortson. Did you know who Westerman was? Not at the time. Did you investigate to find out who he was? Yes. Okay. We're going to skip ahead a bit. Through this process, tell me about your attempts that you made to talk to Mr. Fortson directly. I attempted to call his one of the phone numbers I had for him. I actually had two. The first one said, "This is Robert Fortson. Please leave a message." I left him a message identifying myself as with the state police and that I needed to talk to him about some information that came up in an investigation. Then I had another number I didn't know at the time, but it was actually to his father, Bob Fortson. I spoke with Mr. Bob Fortson, and he said that he worked at the Air Force Base and that he's probably up there, and that he would call him and let him know to get in contact with me. And so on or about October 10th, did you go to the Air Force Base and attempt to talk to Mr. Fortson? Yes, I did. October 10th. Did you gather any information from him? Very little. Did you ever attempt to get a hold of Mitch Westerman? Yes, I did. And does Mitch Westerman, through your investigation, did you find out if Mitch Westerman had a connection to the defense? I did. Okay. We're going to skip all this because we know everything that happened. We know what Westerman said. We know that Westerman's case is still in progress. We know that Mr. Fortson allegedly committed suicide. I believe he factually did as well, but this is October 12th. Okay, 2 days. 2 days later. So, Mr. Holman, can you tell me from your investigation, what were you able to determine how the photos were leaked? Now, remember, this comes from Jerry Holman without ever having gotten information from Robert Fortson. I was able to determine that Mitch Westerman, who used to work for Mr. Baldwin and was also in the Air Force with Robert Fortson prior, he wasn't at the time, but he was friends with Robert Fortson through the Air Force. And it appeared to me through my investigation that he was sending information that he was getting directly from Baldwin to Mr. Fortson. No, it appeared. Notice the language. It appeared to me that he was getting information from Baldwin and giving to Fortson. And he says, and Mr. Fortson was putting that information out to other people. Are you guys getting the missing link here? What platforms was Fortson using to disseminate that information? He was using Facebook and also Reddit. And did Mr. Fortson disseminate the crime scene photos that we previously admitted into evidence? Yes. And were you able to examine the contents of the conversations between Mr. Fortson and Mr. Snay? Is that correct? Mr. Snay, Mr. Cohen, I'm sorry, getting confused. Mr. Cohen, yes. And from that conversation, were you able to determine whether this was a one-time leak of photos or an ongoing leak? Hennessy objects. Okay, that's sustained as well. All right. So now we're moving on to Turco. Through the investigation into Richard Allen, did you interview a professor at Purdue by the name of Professor Turco? Yes. And you interviewed him in September of 2023, is that correct? That is correct. Why did you interview him at the time? During the deposition with Mr. Baldwin, I mentioned that we had received information from a Purdue professor, but I did not know his name. So I found out who he was, and I found out that he had never technically been interviewed. So I went and interviewed him. And you conducted that interview, then turned it over to be included in discovery for the defense. Is that correct? Yes. And that interview was done in September 2023. Is that correct? Yes. And from your investigation, were you able to determine if Fortson was talking about that interview? Yes, I did. And when he was talking about that interview, if you know, Okay. Uh, Jeez. So were you able to determine when Mr. Fortson was talking about that interview between you and Professor Turco? It was within days. I don't know the exact date. I'll have to look. And that information was never released to the public by you? No. What was that information to your knowledge? Uh, was that information out to the public? To his knowledge, no. Were there other instances during the course of your investigation were there other instances where you found where Fortson was releasing information that was only privy to the defense? Holman claims yes. Okay, it's objected and sustained. Okay. Now here's a cross exam. All right. So the Professor Turco report, the only time you've seen that is in this private discussion between Mr. Fortson and Mr. Cohen. The only time I saw what? You see, Jerry Holman, he's pulling a Steve Mullen, playing stupid. The only reference you've testified to about Turco, Professor Turco interview, was in that conversation between two people, Fortson and Cohen, dummy, correct? Yes. So you didn't see it publicly disseminated on the internet? No, I did not. So that was just contained in that conversation. To my knowledge, yes. And then back to Westerman. You did a report of your investigation, yes. On just these, what we'll call the leak investigation, I did, yes. And the original report was 33 pages. I'll believe you. I don't know exactly how long my actual report was because there's other people involved in it. I say the original was 33 pages. Then with the attachments, it turned out to be 272 pages. Yes. Now in there, you place Mr. Westerman's affidavit that was filed with the court. No, I don't know what you're talking about. You don't think you did? My affidavit. Westerman's affidavit was filed with this court. Have you ever seen it? Yes. Okay. So you know that he took photos of stuff, but didn't take the actual stuff. That's correct. And that Mr. Baldwin had no knowledge of what he had done. Yes. And so that he did without any authority from either Mr. Baldwin or Mr. Razi. That's what he said, yes. And there's no evidence that Mr. Baldwin or Mr. Razi authorized Westerman to share anything with anybody. Is that correct? That is correct. And then, were you involved in seeking the prosecution of Mr. Westerman? Yes. And then, so you had conversation with Mr. Hamner, the elected prosecutor of Johnson County. I did. And that's where Mr. Baldwin's office was. Yes. And that's where Mr. Westerman purloined the photographs, correct? Yes. Then he passed it on to the special prosecutor. He did. And then you also discussed seeking charges against Mr. Baldwin. I did. None were ever filed. I did not. You tried to seek charges against Baldwin for being the victim of Mitch Westerman. Ain't that a bitch? Ain't that a bitch? Jerry Holman, you are a dirty dog. You fucking dirty dog. Okay. So there's 5 photos that you received from the murder sheet people. There were more than that. Okay, but 5 in evidence. 5 that I believed were from the crime scene. Yes. Okay, now you said you recognize some of them for having viewed at depositions by Mr. Baldwin and Razi. Yes, sir. Okay. When you saw the one that has the blackout, the circle, and did that have blackouts at the deposition? Yes, I believe so. Sorry, and then you said something about a side-by-side. I did. Side-by-side of what? If you can say without revealing too much because it's under seal. There was a side-by-side. Half the paper was a picture of Abigail, and the other half was a picture of an asterisk. Of who? Like an asterisk, like a star. Now, and what this was, okay, this was a picture of the Hagall room with the picture of Abby with the sticks laid on her in that exact configuration. Now, you talked about your attempt to get a statement from Mr. Fortson. Yes, I did. And did you threaten him with jail? No. Do you remember giving him a deposition on March 1st? I do. And have you reviewed it? I did. You had one. I didn't sign it because there was, would you say? I did not sign it because there was missing information and false statements in there. What? I did not sign it because there was missing information and had false statements. Incorrect. Well, yeah, I'll give you it was incorrect, but I don't know. False is a little strong. Incorrect. And it was a transcriber. And so when you received it, you've had depositions before. Yeah. So when you received it, there was an errata sheet. Mm-hmm. Correct. Did you? And then, so the process is, if you find mistakes, you go to the errata sheet, you correct them, and then you sign your errata sheet. I filled it out, but I told the prosecutor that there was a lot missing. So I don't know if it's just not transcribed, but I was going to sign it, but I wasn't going to sign it because it was the first part of our deposition was missing. Right. But the part was there where you could have ascribed to, sure. Okay. I'll come back to that. Did you tell Mr. Fortson that he could be held in contempt of court and charged with obstruction of justice? Yes. Did you tell him you could get the judge on the phone immediately? Yeah. No. Let's say you didn't say, let me call the judge real quick. I did say I was going to call the judge. Yeah. See, here's what's fucked up. We've got all that, right? All of us have I wouldn't say all of us. Many people are and have been privy to what Jerry Holman said to Robert Kyle Fortson, and he was extremely brutal. And you can tell here that he's trying to walk back and do a little damage control on his level of brutality in that questioning of Robert Kyle Fortson, because Robert Kyle Fortson then ended up dead by suicide. I think largely motivated by the fact that he was treated this way by Mr. Holman. It's a whole other story we'll get to later. So why did you tell Mr. Fortson you would call the judge? So I'm in the military, so I have a chain of command. I was brought up that way. I called the prosecutor first. I've never done a contempt, so I thought I was going to have to give the information directly to the judge because she ordered it. I talked to the prosecutor, and he said he would forward that information. Why did you give Mr. Fortson the impression that you had the ability, the judge's phone number, and you could call her immediately? I don't believe I did. Oh, yeah, asshole. Here's the thing, though. We know what you said. When you said, let me call the judge real quick, what impression do you think a person would have? I said I was going to call the judge, yes. So what do you think a person's impression of that would be? Of course, McClellan objects. Judge sustains. Did you tell him it would ruin things for Allen? What's that? Did you tell him it would ruin things for Mr. Allen? Yes, I said it would ruin things for everybody. And then you said that it didn't, I quote, it doesn't bother me anyway because it's all bullshit in my opinion. Yes, sir. And then you told him that you had gotten information from Mark Robert Cohen. Is that correct? And a K. Smith. I believe I said a K. Smith or a Kyra. Here's the thing I'm still not buying, because all of the lies. Remember, I titled this, More Lies. K. Smith, Kyra DeBruin. Why is there this confusion here with K. Smith, Kyra DeBruin? Remember the previous filing of the defense where we went through clearly? We went through this very clearly. Maybe we'll pull it up on another episode. This one is already going to go too long, so we probably won't. But we can go back and review that, although we've already gone into it before. K. Smith or Kyra, which I was confused because both of those names came up. You see, this is where K. Smith denies having anything to do with it. Kyra DeBruin puts it all on Tyler Carpenter, who has pretty much escaped every sort of accountability for this. But we'll be getting to him later, too. So I wasn't sure if it was the same person or if it was a different person, but I later identified that person to be actually before, but I forgot that person was Kyra De Bruin. So you don't believe there's a K. Smith that exists? Oh, there is. There is a fucking K. Smith. And not only does she exist, she's intimately tied into the whole Delphi murders community. If there is, there probably is, but I don't know her. I've never spoken with her. Well, maybe you should have, doughboy. I want to go back to my question about, did you threaten jail? On page 14, the question was, didn't you indicate to him that he could go to jail over this? I did. Okay, and I did indicate it. I said there's a possibility that the judge could order a contempt, is what I said in my interview. Yeah, so you told him you can go to jail over this. I did not threaten him. I told him there was a possibility that he could. No, you fucking threatened him. Okay. Would you admit that some people might take that as a threat? Objection sustained. Okay. Do you recall Fortson telling you that he wanted to have a consultation with an attorney before he talked to you? He did. And at first, he just simply said, consultation? No, he said that he thought he needed to talk to somebody. Okay, and then later he specified attorney. Yes, and you kept talking to him. Yes, but I did not ask him questions, but I was explaining to him what I was there for. And yes, but I didn't ask questions until after I talked to the prosecutor. And then you asked questions. I asked him if, I think I asked him one question, and that was, is he not willing to, maybe a few, I don't know, bullshit, 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 bullshit. But I asked him if he was not willing to give up information that I knew he had, and he said, not without a lawyer. I said, that's fine. No, what you did, you talked to him, you pressured him, you questioned him without an attorney, threatened him with jail without an attorney, said you were going to call the judge without an attorney when he requested an attorney multiple times, which should have ended it immediately. All right, moving on. And you took a recorded statement from Ms. Einfeld. Let's talk about that for a moment before we continue, please. Who is Miss Einfeld? Who is Miss Einfeld? Because, see, all of these people have gotten away with this, and you have a dead body. All right, so let's talk about Miss Einfeld. Let's talk about her a little bit. Friend of Rick Snay, oddly enough. Good friend of Rick Snay. Tahara Einfeld, who also goes under the YouTube name or Facebook name, or I think it's YouTube or Discord, Bella. Okay, Bella. Tahara. Tahara, we'll get back to her. So Tahara was colluding with Mr. Holman. And McClellan. All right, so we'll get back to that. Let me continue on here. And she had some pictures. She had some pictures on her phone, yes. Bella. Rick Snay's friend. Did you see them? I did. And did you connect them to any of the other pictures? Yes. Which ones? I don't recall exactly which ones, but it should be in my report that they were released to by Mr. Fortson to Mr. Cohen, and I had her delete them. But she told you she got them from a Tyler Carpenter. Yes, and who is he? Reg Dunlop. Tyler Carpenter. Reg Dunlop. Tyler Carpenter, the operator of the infamous RegCord, the Discord in which all of the trolling, all of the colluding was organized for the past year. Reg Dunlop, Tyler Carpenter. Tyler has gotten away with his part in this. We'll be talking about that later. And who is he? I don't know. You could never find him. No. How the fuck can you not, Jerry Holman, when I could find him? How did you, Reg Dunlop? Okay, Reg Dunlop, Prof was able to find you. How can Jerry Holman not find you? What effort did you make? What effort did you make to find the source of the photos, Tyler Carpenter? At that time, I talked to the prosecutor. At that time, we weren't interested in all the people that had them because we already located the source where they came from. No, you believed you located the source. No, Reg Dunlop is Tyler Carpenter. Tyler Carpenter is Reg Dunlop, or was, should I say. Now he goes by the bushiest beaver. Okay. So because Holman thought, he imagined it in his mind where the photos were coming from and to who, he refused to look into it. So instead of actually following what really happened with the photos between Rick Snay, Tahara, Tyler Carpenter, and all of them, Ruckus, all of them. Instead of doing that, what did Holman do? Well, he protected his Masonic brothers. Yeah, that's what he did. Instead of looking at all of them, he just blamed it on the dead guy. Now, Westerman did have photos. We know nothing about Westerman other than the fact that he's going to trial. What we do know about Westerman is that because of his PCA, we were able to solidly say months ago that Mark Robert Cohen is the one who leaked to all of the podcasters and YouTubers. Now, how was Tyler Carpenter tied into that? And how was Tyler Carpenter tied to Robert Fortson? Well, we know that we have someone who claims that the $2,000 anonymous donation to his daughter's GoFundMe, by that I mean Mark Robert Cohen's daughter's GoFundMe for a Disney trip, came from Tyler Carpenter. Remember, the $500 came from Robert Fortson. So we had Tyler Carpenter and Robert Fortson allegedly sending large amounts of money to Mark Robert Cohen. What was that money for? So what you had at that point was your belief that Westerman obtained those pictures without permission, correct? Yes. That he gave them to one person only, Mr. Fortson? Yes. And that Fortson gave them to Mr. Cohen and Mrs. De Bruin. Kyra told you? Kyra De Bruin. Oh yeah, I'll get there. So you had no interest in knowing who else had them? Well, we had a lot of people that had them. Oh, you goddamn right. All the fucking YouTubers had them. All the fucking YouTubers had them. We had a lot of people had them, and at that point, nobody was releasing them. Oh, bullshit. People were releasing them. Releasing them. What does releasing them mean? Because what people were doing, people were sharing them in emails, people were sharing them in Facebook Messenger, people were sharing them on their Discords, and people were sharing them in text messages. That's what was happening. And people behind the scenes were sharing them like hotcakes. In all of your interviews, you told them that the judge was adamant that you find the photos and get them or delete them. Have them deleted, yes. And every person that you did talk to, you identified in the chain. You talked to them about contempt. I talked to them about what? Contempt. Yes, possibly. So you learned that a Tyler Carpenter, Reg Dunlop, allegedly had them. No, Kyra De Bruin. No, who? Tyler Carpenter. Tyler Carpenter. I don't know. You just admitted that Miss Tahara Einfeld told you that she got them from a Tyler Carpenter. Are you saying Tyler? Tyler. Yes. Carpenter? Yes. So what's the confusion? I thought you said Kyra Carpenter. Oh, it was Kyra De Bruin. What the fuck? This case is insanity. It's absolute insanity. You were charged with getting these photos. but you didn't locate or attempt to locate Tyler, who allegedly had them because, well, you'd already found out who you believed the source was, correct? Yes. And you made that decision in conjunction with Mr. McClelland. What's that again? Plain stupid. You made that decision in conjunction with Mr. McClelland. Yes, I had a discussion with the prosecutor. And then Mrs. Tahara Einfeld, Bella, told you about a screenshot somehow connected to a George Nye, Ruckus Rocks, who was a former alleged law enforcement officer, i.e. deputy warden at a prison. Do you recall that? It was a separate investigation, but yes. And what was that investigation? Was that investigation not related to leaks? Correct. That investigation, the information she was giving me was not related to the leaks. What investigation was it related to? Harassment. Harassment? Harassment. What? Hold on. Hold on. What? What is this? What is this we know nothing about? Page 68. And then Miss Tahara Einfeld, Bella, told you about a screenshot somehow connected to George Nye, Ruckus Rocks, who was a alleged former law enforcement officer, i.e. deputy warden at a prison. Do you recall that? It was a separate investigation. What was the investigation related to? Harassment. Huh. What is that? Because we just blaze by that. Okay, they just blaze by that. I'm looking at page 68. What in the fuck is this? I guess we will find out. Moving right along. And then she told you she had sent them to Christina Mack. Christina Mack. Who is Christina Mack? From Baton Rouge. Christina Mack lives in Blue Ridge, Georgia. Christina Mack, who also not only hates David Hennessy, but colluded with Jerry Holman. I will quote a couple quotes for you. This is Christina. Me and Bella, tomorrow after Nick and Holman fuck up, let our names slip. Bella says, haha, but for real, if it's going to live on TV, I'm going to be like, sir, you had one job. Christina Mack is also known as Meerkat. I will hire a private investigator myself just to follow Nick around and make him paranoid, says Christina Mack. We all need to, says Bella. That man will never know a good night's rest again. Christina says, I'm just going to send him a message immediately like, yo, what the fuck, Nick? I thought we had a deal. I thought we had a deal. This isn't the only time they haven't blamed Bella Meerkat Fig Solves or Murder Sheet for something, and we're all the reasons for it. This one's a golden one right here. This is the group of people we're dealing with. Okay, let me continue because I've lost track. Bella Tahara sends them to Christina Mack after getting them from Tyler Carpenter. She told you she sent them to Christina Mack, Meerkat. Yes, the photos, yes. And so did you go talk to Christina Mack? No. So we didn't talk to Christina. We didn't talk to Tyler. We didn't talk to George Nye. So she still might have those photos. She hasn't released them, so she has not released them. If she does, I think most people, what? You haven't seen that she's released them. Correct, says Holman. You don't know how many people she may have sent them to. That is correct. The same with Tyler Carpenter. He might still have them. Yes, sir. Well, I tell you what, George Nye still has them. Okay. How do I know? Because little Frankie sent me the messages. George Nye took screenshots of the crime scene photos before deleting them. Bad news for all of you. Everyone still has the crime scene photos, ladies and gentlemen. Rick Snape put them on a thumb drive before he deleted them. Everyone kept them before deleting them. Do you get it? That's not what's important here. What's important here is this sequence of events and where the lies are and where the disconnect is. How many total photos do you believe Westerman took? I don't recall exactly what he took. There were some that looked like they were downloaded from another Facebook page. I think he probably took what? I'm sorry? What? I'd have to look at the photos to give me a number. What did you say about downloaded from a Facebook page? There were some downloaded from somebody's Facebook page. By Westerman? I don't know. They were sent to Mr. Fortson. I'm sorry? They were sent from Mr. Fortson to Mr. Cohen. I don't know who. Oh, so Mr. Fortson maybe downloaded other pictures from Facebook? Could have, yes. And so, what? What does that mean? What does that mean, guys? That means how is the defense and Westerman the source of Fortson's photos, and that how is that known when Fortson never talked, and when what is believed is that Fortson downloaded some things from Facebook? What do you know? What do you know that you know? What can you prove? And did Mr. Fortson, to your knowledge, have other sources for photographs and information on the investigation? To my knowledge, no. But you just said downloaded from Facebook. Something not clicking here? So in his conversation with Mr. Mark Robert Cohen, does he talk about other people? I'm sorry? Can you repeat the question? You said you reviewed conversation between Fortson and Cohen. And so my question was, did Robert Fortson talk about other people? Yes. Did he ever mention Mr. Westerman? Just Mr. Baldwin. He mentioned Mr. Baldwin. Fortson? Yes, he mentioned Mr. Baldwin. Mentioned Baldwin, yes, sir. In what respect? In the screenshots of the text messages between them two, he said, Mr. Baldwin told me I was going up to Allen County. Mr. Baldwin told me this. Mr. Baldwin told me the crime scene was going to be. You're saying that Fortson claimed that Mr. Baldwin had direct conversations with him? That's what he was alluding to. Have you ever corroborate that? I tried to. With what? Phone records? No, I tried to interview Mr. Fortson and Mr. Westerman. Right, and you didn't. You had Detective Rector interview Mr. Baldwin. What? Could you repeat the question? You had Detective Rector interview Mr. Baldwin. Yes, I did. For 2 hours. I don't know. I wasn't there. You mean you haven't looked at it? No. And did you say, hey, ask him about contact with Mr. Fortson? I don't believe I told Detective Rector how to conduct his interview. Did you get a download of forensic examination of Fortson's cell phones and electronic devices? Detective Rector did. And so have you reviewed the phone records? Just in discussion with Detective Rector. What'd you say? Just in discussion with Detective Rector. Any corroboration that Mr. Baldwin ever spoke to Mr. Fortson in the phone records? I don't recall. But that'd be a great question for Detective Rector. Now, early on the discovery of victims, was there a leak from a search party member? Correct. David Erskine. David Erskine. Objection, Judge. I'm not sure where you're going with this line of questioning. Mr. Holman answered before I could object. Blah, 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 blah. The leak was crime scene photos. Yes. Well, no, it wasn't a crime scene yet because the search party had just found them. So we didn't get to them yet. It couldn't have been a crime scene. I guarantee you, what you've been calling crime scene photos are David Erskine's photos upon finding the bodies of Abby and Libby. More on that later. It could not have been a crime scene yet. It wasn't a crime scene yet because the search party located them. It wasn't a crime scene until we got there and secured the scene. But it was photos of articles that eventually were in the crime scene. Does that make sense to you? Not really. Okay. Because there was photos of girls. No. And the sticks, I never saw those. You don't believe? In your deposition at page 8, under oath, on March 1st, 2024, you indicated that the leak from the search party member had some text messages and some photos of clothing. Yes. And you're not calling them crime scene photos. Why? Because it was before the police was notified. It wasn't a crime scene until we got there. So you're saying civilians found the girls first? Yes. So then he took pictures before law enforcement got there. That's what I believe. Yes. And then he publicized them. Yes. But Judge, I object, McClellan. Blah, 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 blah. Mr. Hennessy says, there were other crime scene photos out there. Fact. I mean, he's technically saying it's not a crime scene because law enforcement hasn't shown up. But it was scene of a crime. And some other guy, way before these defense attorneys were appointed, yes, 6 years before or 5 years before, had photos of clothing and other things and the girls. I think it's relevant because that was out in the public long before any photos from Westerman. Those weren't crime scene photos taken by the police, says the court. Correct, says Hennessy. Okay, then it's not a crime scene. Would you say? Then it's not a crime scene, not crime scene photos. These photos may have been taken by civilians, but he's testifying that they were not there yet. Correct, but so they can't be pictures. The crime scene photos taken by police. It's pictures of the fucking crime scene, says Hennessy. And if you put them out in the public, you're not going to be able to discern when the police showed up. Whether there are police photos or other photos, but they will clearly be to the public pictures of the crime scene. Not only that, none of these pictures that were shared had evidence markers. So how is it a crime scene? I understand you usually canvass the crime scene with the photographer before you put the markers. But I'm telling you, these photos do not appear to be from a professional camera, do not appear to be properly taken. They're at odd angles, as if from a cell phone, as if from a searcher. Pardon me, I get a little heated. Judge, we're here to discuss the photos that were leaked from the defense, says McClellan. I don't think there's a debate about that. Yeah, but what you're doing again, McClellan, see, the waters are muddied, and Hennessy is here trying to clarify. You don't want that water clarified. No, you don't. You want that water muddied. So you're objecting. You're making it not about the Erskine photos. You're making it not about the leaks that had been out there since the fucking first week of these murders. No, you're making it about what I want it to be about, which is obfuscated facts and trying to make Baldwin and Razi guilty of intentionally leaking this through Westerman, even though we know there's two sets of distinctly different photos. It's outrageous. Pardon me, I'm going to skip ahead a bit. I guess I'd like to start, maybe. I'd like to go over this section. All right. So I'm going to show you, Holman, what's been admitted as State's Exhibit 6. You testified earlier this is a conversation between Fortson and Cohen. So I'd like you to read on page 1 here, this first message I'm directing you. Can you read that? Read it to yourself. Or are you familiar with that message? Yes. It says, "What's up? Same rules. Let's get permission to share anything outside of our convo and respect." Who's sending that? Robert Fortson. I want to draw your attention to the next page. Okay. Here we go. Can you read that message to the best of your ability to the court? It should be next weekend. I'm sitting in Franklin with it all. Okay. They want me to punch holes in all their stuff and look at it. And that message is from who? Robert Fortson. Where's Mr. Baldwin's office located? Franklin. Okay. Can you read that, Mr. Holman? Okay, here's another one. Defense just got the girl's phone records. No details yet, but they're saying that there's good stuff in there, or the stuff good on there. We'll go to the next page. Read that message. From Rob Fortson. And so Fortson's saying the defense just got the phone records of the girls. Yes. I draw your attention to this message. Can you please read it into the record? Purdue professor said the exact opposite of what Holman said. Andy has audio from it. The Purdue professor, who is still there, mind you, consulted with Harvard professor and said, yes, those are runes. Yes, it's cult-related stuff. Yes. The prof agrees. So digest that for a second in the grand scheme of police work. And who's this message from? There's one more. You want me to go ahead? Sorry, it's a slow transfer. It's okay. Judge has said she's going to get a suppression hearing, but Andy is looking for clarity on it. That means Frank's hearing, or what she is meaning for sure. We'll see. I'll watch it now. I'll watch that now. That's from Fortson. What's the date of the message? October 2nd. Again, Lieutenant Holman, when was the date of that message? October 2nd. And when did you conduct the interview of Professor Turco? In September. I don't remember the exact date, but then I turned it over a couple days before this to you. Did you ever release that interview to the public? No. Did you release it to anybody but my office? No. Are you familiar with somebody involved in the case that goes by Andy? Yes. Who? Mr. Baldwin. Okay. Here's another one. I thought about a way I could show the crime scene without sending the pics. Maybe photograph something with the pics on my phone in the photo. And who's that from? Robert Fortson. Who's it directed to? Mark Robert Cohen. Okay. Will you read this message? Facebook. Have no worries about it. It's technically crime scene and a big piece of current evidence. Who's that message from? Robert Fortson. Okay. Then can you read this series of messages, please? Go side by side with Barbara 1. Make a poll. Ask F, Rune, Splatter, Other. 4 options there. Tell them to list there's in the comments. I let them argue over it. If it's the actual F, that's from Mr. Fortson to Cohen. So throughout your history as a law enforcement officer, you've had an opportunity to investigate several crime scenes. Is that correct? Okay. I'm going to skip ahead some. Look, you have Fortson directing Cohen. Okay. Yes, there is that happening. Okay. That's what was displayed there. Okay. Oh, I'm trying to save us some time because there's so much. I think we're done with this. So let me take an intermission. What I'll do is I'll take a 1-minute intermission to go relieve myself, and then we'll go into our next. I've tried. I want to be able to make this a single show, so that we do not have to do part 1 and part 2, so that everyone can have the opportunity to watch this in a single stream and get a better grasp on all the fucketry that went down on March 18th. And so we're going to get into that. Now we'll get into the second half after a couple minute break here. And gosh, I have no words. The fact that Mr. Fortson is now gone is very upsetting. Fact that you have all of these YouTubers involved in lying, very upsetting. The zero accountability, very upsetting. Jump to wild conclusions on the part of Jerry Holman, very upsetting. And failure to adequately investigate those involved in these leaks, very upsetting. So please give me a moment. Promise it won't be long. Promise you'll have music during the break. So hopefully you like it. Let's see. There we go. All right, welcome everyone. We are back for part two. Give me a break. All right, listen, everyone in the chat, thank you very much for being in the chat. Sorry I'm not reading the chat. It's very important that I get through this. I'll try to go through the chat after, probably in another hour. I want to especially thank Radar, lovely Radar. I see that she sent a super chat. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Radar, for the support. I really appreciate that support. Go out and get some Happy Meals. We will. He was begging for that this morning. It was funny enough because he saw it on a magazine. All right. He saw Culver's ad on a magazine, and he said, "Dad, I want to go to Burger King." I said, "That's Culver's. Let's go to Culver's instead." All right. So here's what we do. Get into part two. Everyone else, please hit the like. Please share. We got super chats. We got memberships. We got Amy. Would you post the donation pathways? Any way you want to support the channel, I appreciate it. Pardon me for the gum, but my mouth's dry. Okay, now we're going to get into something really important, which is Ben Rector. Okay, if you guys don't know of Ben Rector is the individual who was charged with investigating the leaks, and not only that, he wrote the PCA for Mitch Westerman, in which you can find some interesting information. I'll leave it at that. Ben Rector also works on the Flora fire investigation alongside Brock Russell. That's your team for Flora. So Ben Rector, Brock Russell, oddly enough, specialists in the methamphetamine I don't know if you call it task force or I forget what it's called, but Brock Russell came from the methamphetamine unit as head of the unit, and oddly enough placed on the Flora lead. So these guys are not lightweights. Prof Radar is the Happy Meal. She got some fries with that shake. All right. All right, here we go. Ben Rector. Meth suppression unit. Thank you, Precascent. That's absolutely right. Meth suppression unit. All right. How did you become involved in the leaks of the photos? Is that correct? I was asked somewhere around October 6th, I believe, give or take. But I was asked to locate Brandon Woodhouse. And did you locate Brandon Woodhouse? I did. And did you have a conversation with him? I did. What did you do after that? I had a conversation with Mr. Woodhouse. And then afterwards, I was asked to complete an interview with Mr. Razi and Mr. Baldwin. Did you conduct those interviews? I did. And those were completed on October 12th. Were you able to meet with Mr. Razi and ask him questions about the leaked photos? That is correct. Were you also able to do the same with Mr. Baldwin? That is correct. When you interviewed Mr. Razi, did he represent to you who the members of their investigative team are? He did. He gave me several individuals that were kind of involved on their team. Were any of those individuals Mitch Westerman? No. Were any of those individuals Mr. Fortune? No. Did he ever mention Mr. Razi? Did he ever mention that Mr. Westerman was working with them as a consultant? He did not. Did he mention his name at all throughout the interview? I believe we discussed him, and I believe he said that I don't think he had ever met Mr. Westerman to the best of his knowledge. Okay, and did you discuss discovery in this case with Mr. Razi? We did. And do you know where they would usually keep discovery for this case? Yes, so we broke down the flow of discovery from your office through their hands. And ultimately, I believe Mr. Razi's secretary would pick it up, and then it would ultimately go to Andy Baldwin's office. Did you ask him about the photos that were leaked to the public? I did. Yes. Did he have any explanation of how those were leaked? The only knowledge he had was that was what Mr. Baldwin had told him relating to it. Okay, did you interview Mr. Baldwin? I did. Did Mr. Baldwin know Westerman? He did. So tell me about that. He was a former employee of Mr. Baldwin's office, and he had known him for several years. Did Mr. Baldwin explain to you how the leaked photos got out to the public? Yes, he outlined how he believed that had happened. And tell me his explanation. So Mr. Baldwin told me that on the afternoon of October 9th, I believe, he received a text message from Mitch Westerman, indicated that he needed to speak with him. He stated that he had some plans that evening. However, he stayed at the office. At some point in time, Mitch Westerman showed up at his office and informed him that he had taken pictures of these pictures. Did Mr. Baldwin mention that Mr. Westerman was on their team? He did not, no. Did Mr. Baldwin mention that he had used Mr. Westerman as a consultant? He did say that he had discussed strategy related to Delphi with him, related to the Delphi case. Did Mr. Baldwin say that he released any documents to Mr. Westerman? He told me throughout the interview that I believe 1 to 2 days prior to the Franks motion being published with the court that he had provided that document to Mr. Westerman. Or Mr. Westerman had shown up at his office and viewed the Franks motion 2 or 1 to 2 days prior to it being published. And I think that was September 18th. Did Mr. Baldwin show you any kind of non-disclosure agreement that he had with Mr. Westerman? No, he did not. Did Mr. Baldwin show you any text or email or anything confirming that he had a non-disclosure agreement with Mr. Westerman? No, he did not. Did you discuss Mr. Woodhouse with Mr. Baldwin? We did, yes. And what did he tell you about Mr. Woodhouse? He informed me that he had inadvertently sent Mr. Woodhouse, I believe it was called a thumb drive map, outlining some evidence related to a hard drive he was given. Did he explain to you why he had Mr. Woodhouse's email in the first place? Yes, he had consulted with Mr. Woodhouse, I believe, somewhere around December of 22, discussing some things related to some knowledge that he may have. Of the Delphi case, or something intertwined with it? Sorry, I lost my spot. Potentially. When you had a conversation with Mr. Baldwin, did he inform you that he had also given the Franks memorandum to another civilian individual? He did, yes. And who was that, if you recall? I don't recall the name, but it was a CASA worker, I believe, in Franklin County, but I don't recall the name. Did he show you any kind of non-disclosure agreement or any documentation confirming that she would keep that information confidential? No, sir. After your interviews with Mr. Baldwin and Mr. Rozzi, what did you do next? Directly after that, I sought a search warrant for Mr. Mitch Westerman's residence. And did you get a search warrant? We did. Was his residence searched? It was. And did you gather electronic devices from that residence? Yes, we did. Did you gather Mr. Westerman's cell phone? Yes, we did. Were you able to download the contents from that cell phone? We were not, no. Are you attempting to now? Yes, I believe so. Tell me about that. I believe, so when we got the device, it was locked and secured. And the device had been taken to our high-tech crime unit or our crime unit, and I believe it's still on a gray key attempting to break into the passcode. If you had that passcode, would you be able to examine the cell phone? We would. And the fact that it's on the gray key, do you have any idea how long it'll take to get the original contents or get into the contents of that cell phone? Originally, I was told somewhere around 2 years, but it all depends, and it's out of our control. From the electronic devices that you've collected from Mr. Westerman's house, did you or were you able to determine if Mr. Westerman had an iCloud account or not? We were. And what did you do with that information? So we were able to determine that he did have an iCloud account, and that was determined, or that was, we were able to access that information by a computer that was located in his garage. And we were able to determine that Mitch Westerman's iCloud, we were able to determine his iCloud information. Once you find out he had an iCloud account, what did you do to gather information from that account? I sought and was granted a search warrant for iCloud. We ultimately gave that search warrant to iCloud or to Apple. Did you get information back from Apple? Yes, we did. And that information you just got back from Apple, tell me what that information was. Just give me what did you get back from Apple? So from Apple, it's kind of, we have no picking and choosing of what we get. But I obtained, I believe, somewhere around 500 gigabytes worth of data, which Apple provided to us. And it was data which was backed up from Mitch Westerman's devices in some way, shape, or form. And were you able to determine from the information you gathered that the information on the iCloud was in fact backed up from Mitch Westerman's devices? Correct. There were personal photographs and family pictures from the Westerman family, so we believed it was, yes. So not to be elementary, but to make sure I understand, when you say backed up, meaning that information came from his devices, that's correct. Okay. Was the iCloud account registered to Mitch Westerman? It was, yes. I want to back up. We'll strike that. I'm going to show you what's been marked as State's Exhibit 10. Can you identify that? Can you tell me what it is? So these are screenshots which were located on this iCloud account. These are screenshots of conversations between an individual named Andy, and they were stored within the iCloud. And when you say screenshots, what is screenshots? Explain that to me. Okay. I'll skip that. Okay. So, Mr. Rector, I want to direct your attention to State's Exhibit 10. I'm going to stand up here so the microphone catches me. There's a gray or light blue part of the conversation. There's a dark blue part of the conversation. Can you explain to the court which is outgoing, which is incoming? Absolutely. So the blue messages would be the outbound messages. The gray in color messages would be the inbound messages that were received or to whatever user. And the name at the top of those messages is Andy. And again, these are messages that came from Mr. Westerman's iCloud account. Correct. Correct. So they're talking about the time frame a bit. Okay. Do those messages give you an idea of the time frame when the messages were sent? They do. There are specific things that are cited in those messages that give us a proximity of the time in which they would have been sent or received. So while there's no date stamp that states a specific day when they were sent, the messages give you context of when they were sent. Yes. When you read the content, that would give you some more knowledge into that. I want to go back in time a bit. You also executed a search warrant from the Facebook account of Mr. Fortson. Is that correct? That is correct. Oops. You had an opportunity to examine the messages between Fortson and Cohen that were retrieved from individuals, correct? They're ones that would have been retrieved and presented to me first by Sergeant Holman, or by First Sergeant Holman. You had an opportunity to go through those? Yes, I did. And the messages we've admitted into evidence today, those are correct, yes. And when you examine Mr. Fortson's Facebook account, were those messages in his account? I did not see them, no. Do you have any explanation of why they weren't there? Objection. Question withdrawn. Let's start towards the end. He kept asking about photos in State's Exhibit 10. I don't see any photographs. Well, sir, what he's referring to as a photograph would be the screenshots, which would appear in photos when you save them that way. So there are screenshots that came from iCloud? Yes. but there's no photographs in State Exhibit 10 that were being passed back and forth between Westerman and Baldwin. These are messages of screenshot messages. So there's no photographs in the documents between Westerman and Baldwin. Correct. No, sir. Thank you. So how long did your interview with Andy Baldwin take? I believe approximately 2 hours. And was he cooperative? He was. Didn't try to cut you off? He did not, no. Answered every question? He did. Openly and honestly, he answered every question, yes. Did you ask him if he had ever had direct contact with Fortson? I do not believe I asked him that question, no. Did he describe how Westerman had no authority to take pictures of anything related to the Delphi case? He described that he did not have the authority to take pictures in the conference room, yes. So your answer to my question was yes, yes. Did you find out the date Mr. Westerman confessed to Mr. Baldwin? What we were told was October 9th, when, as in my testimony previously, was that he showed up at Mr. Baldwin's office on October 9th and told him that he had done it. And you know that was reported then to the prosecution and the court on October 9th. I believe somewhere thereabouts. I'm not exactly privy to all that information. And then you interviewed Brandon Woodhouse. I did. And from that, did you learn that Mr. Baldwin, within an hour of having mistakenly sent an email to Mr. Woodhouse, called him and told him to delete it? Yes. All right. Were you aware of a leak of the affidavit for probable cause to search Mr. Logan's property that was had stamped on it on every page murder sheet? Objection. All right. Oh my gosh. It's sustained. Oh my gosh. Okay. Was that funny or not? Was that funny? I thought it was funny. All right. Did you investigate any other leaks? I was given information by Brad Rozzi at the time of my interview with him about some information that was on a segment by Barbara McDonald. Okay. Beyond that, no. Okay. And then when you had access and reviewed the actual email that went to Mr. Woodhouse, yes, that was provided to me. It was addressed to Brad, correct? Correct, yes. And Mr. Woodhouse is Brandon. That is correct. So it clearly wasn't intended for Mr. Brandon Woodhouse. I don't think I can speak for what the intent was. I just know that's how it was addressed. Okay, Sergeant Holman does, why can't you? Because I speak to facts. I don't know. Oof. Okay, and you reviewed the thumb drive map that was attached to the misdirected email? Yes. And that didn't identify what discovery is or where on the map on that thumb drive? I guess you'd have to be more specific. I don't understand the question. That's all right. It's in evidence, nothing further. Okay. So this is a cross-examination. All right. Now, they take a lunch break. All right. They come on back. All right, let's see. There's a bunch of logistical stuff. And then they call several lawyers, and we're going to skip over a bunch of that, okay? So a bunch of lawyers are called basically to establish the fact that it is a normal thing for attorneys to consult with each other and to seek outside consultation. Okay, that's all it is. But a bunch of that happens, and we're going to skip over all of that. Trust me. All right, so we're going to skip because we're not so interested in that. I mean, that's already evident to the attorneys. All know that that is the way that things are. It's kind of funny that that was included to me, because would not the, I know it's for the record, but would not the courts know? Okay. Okay, now calls Julie Melvin. Hennessy calls Julie Melvin. Okay. Do you know a Terry Williams? Yes. What? Yes. How do you know her? I met her through this case. I'm going to hand you what's marked as Defendant's L and ask if you can identify it. Yes. What is it? That's my phone record of phone calls that we had back in 2017 with Terry Williams. Yes. And then, okay, move to admit. Okay. McClellan objects. Okay. Hennessy says, the next sheet is a Facebook page, a shot of a Facebook of Terry Williams, and it involves Terry Williams sharing with Miss Melvin confidential information about the investigation and from who she received it. These are the other leaks, and the relevance, again, is to show that there's plenty of other sources not connected to. I mean, I'll tell you, I don't think the Westerman leak. Westerman's been connected to Andy by the evidence, but no knowledge of the leak. And so I'm asking to put in evidence of other leaks so that on the issue of contempt, there's many other sources of information about the investigation. As the evidence goes on, there will be testimony that even of the photos that they attribute to Mr. Westerman cannot have come from Mr. Baldwin's office. I'm telling you, it most likely came either some from the prosecution, some from David Erskine, and some from, don't worry, I won't say it, but you know who you are. I've already put it on the screenshots. Okay. Okay, so anyway, so he offers this Terry Williams evidence from Julie Melvin, and McClellan objects, of course, naturally. I guess I'm not sure of Mr. Hennessy's plans, but if the plan is to parade a bunch of podcasters and YouTubers up to the stand and talk about other leaks, that has no relevance in what we're here to discuss today, Judge. We're here to discuss information outlined in the state's contemptuous conduct information filed with the court. Here's the thing, bro. It's the podcasters and YouTubers who were at the center of all of the leaks, including a litany of leaks going back all the way to 2017. So it's highly relevant, and that's what was attempted to be done here. But they don't want to hear about that. See, they don't want the truth of what's been going down. They don't want that. He says the fact that the defense believes there are other leaks, or podcasters believe there are other leaks, or YouTubers believe there are other leaks, has no relevance to what we're here to discuss today. And so on those two objections, the state is objecting. Hennessy says, number one, it won't be a parade because I'm going to call them one at a time. Oh, he got jokes. He got jokes, ladies and gentlemen. He got jokes. Can I read the joke again? He says, number one, it won't be a parade because I'm going to call them one at a time. Number two, it's highly relevant, at least in my mind. It goes to the theory of the defense. And I've already explained why it's relevant to both punishment and contempt. And court agrees, okay. So I think at some point, if you get to the question of punishment, organizational math, and what kind of damage or prejudice or harm has that caused versus leaks about the complete probable cause affidavit, the existence of a bullet at the crime scene, or recovery of a firearm at Mr. Allen's house, it goes on and on and on. All right, I'll sustain the objection to M, bitch. Have you followed the Delphi case? Pardon? Have you followed the Delphi case? Yes. Did you grow up in Delphi? No. What county do you live in now? I live in Hamilton. Have you seen the postings or other evidence postings or other evidence from the investigation. Objection! Relevance. I don't understand what this has to do with allegations. Mr. Hennessy says, well, if he can't understand it, doesn't mean it's not admissible. Ooh, that's another one. That's another one. That's another one of the Henny giving the old punch in the jaw to McClellan. Once again, well, if he can't understand it, it doesn't mean it's not admissible. That's uncalled for, sir. Evidence has to be relevant to be admissible, and this is not admissible evidence. It's not relevant. I'll sustain the objection. Gall, you are supposed to appear to be impartial. That's exactly the opposite of what you show. I'll make an offer to prove, then I'll approach with both case law and rule if the court would like to have it. I can do that by question and answer, or I can do it in a summary fashion. Summary fashion, I'm familiar with case law and the rule, sir. You see the attitude? You see the attitude? Hey, Shibby, will you email that to me, please, Shibby? Email it. Okay. Miss Melvin would testify that she has followed this case closely, that she has seen many other posts that has been publicly disseminated on purpose and willfully by other people that is evidence from this investigation, including crime scene photos unconnected to the defense, unconnected to Mr. Westerman, unconnected to Mr. Fortson, and that the sources have been vast, but primarily fake solves, including law enforcement, Sergeant Holman, and other people involved in the investigation. Thank you. Okay, then Franny Gull gets smarty pants and says, and if any of that had to do with the charges that are being alleged by the state of Indiana, it would be relevant. Do you have any further questions of this witness? And he gives up and says, no, ma'am. Okay. Here's the thing. She was stopped from being able to explain to you and put in the record exactly what has been going on. And that's unforgivable. Oh, but she will someday. She will. Examination of Skip Jansen. Okay. Have you followed the Delphi investigation? I have. I followed it since August 2020. Do you know a Gary Baudet? Yes. How do you know him? He and I became friends. We initially met, I think, around January of 2022. I made several appearances on his channel, a YouTube channel, talking about the case, and we just became friends over time. And you were part of a group that he was part of a group of? I'm sorry, what? Say again? You were part of a group that he was a part of. Yes, we were in a Discord group. Do you know of different names that he went by? Yes, let's see. Big Solves. He went by Fig Newton USA, I think on Reddit. But mostly, he's known as Fig. Or I call Tiny Figs. But also as Fig Solves. Or Fig Don't Solve. Fig Colludes. Fig Dissolves. Fig Sucks the Balls of Nicholas McClellan. I'm sorry, apology. Fig Solves Fig Newton. And I'm going to hand you what's been marked as Defendant's Exhibit N and ask if you can identify it. Yes, that's a conversation he and I had over text message. And how do you know that? I'm familiar with the conversation. He and I talked a lot. Like I said, we were good friends, so we communicated a lot. Offer Exhibit N. Okay, and of course, McClellan doesn't want to hear this. He doesn't want to hear this shit. So, Judge, may I ask a few foundational questions? Yes. Mr. Wood, the conversation that you had with Mr. Bodette, Tiny Figs, Fig Solves, Fig Dissolves, does it have anything to do about an email sent from Mr. Baldwin to Woodhouse? It does not. Here comes the gaslight. Blah, 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 blah. Does it have anything to do with a press release from the defense that was released in December 2022? Nope. Does it have anything to do with an ongoing leak from the defense to the public? What? That's an allegation, fuckface. No. Any response? No, I won't rehash. Okay, then N is not admitted. Oh, we don't get the Fig Solves. Imagine that. We don't get the Fig Solves. Okay, well, here's Exhibit O. Can you identify that? Yes, this is a text conversation between Gary Bodette and myself. It's covering several different things about the case, about sources in this case mainly. Okay, thank you. Offer Defendant's Exhibit O. I guess I need to, can I take a look at it, says McClellan. See what it is. Same objection as before. Relevance to what we're here to discuss. Okay, same. Not admitted. Okay, so that's the second. So Fig ain't getting in, right? Fig ain't getting in here. I'll hand you an envelope marked flash drive. Fig, November 22. YouTube video. Are you familiar with that? I am familiar with the video, yes. And inside of the flash drive is a YouTube. It's a YouTube video. Do you recognize it? I do. And what does he talk? What is it about in that YouTube video? He talks about cartridges, bullets, casings, unspent casings, cartridges, mostly evidentiary stuff for the most part. I move to offer Exhibit Q. Judge, I'm gonna object. Same objections. Blah, 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 blah. Same response. Blah, blah. Okay, not admitted. Not admitted again. Okay, question. Did Mr. Bodette, Fig Sauls, no balls, reveal a lot of detailed information about the investigation? Objection, Judge. Same objection. Sustained. Offer to prove. Go ahead. I'd like to do it in question and answer form. I'll be brief. That's the preference under rule. You may proceed. Could you please, just for the record, indicate what kind of information Bodette was putting out there? You specifically to the October, November of 2022, or just in general? All over. A lot of stuff, says Skip. He claimed to have different sources and talked about a lot of things. Wouldn't he indicate that there was going to be a release of documents in 1 week, and then that occurred within 1 week? Yeah, he did. I believe on June 16th of 2023, he said that his source had told him that they were going to release a large set of documents on June 16th of 2023. Some are older, some is new, is how he described it. And then a week or so later, they were released. Oh, let's listen to that again. On June 16th of 2023, he said his source had told him they were going to release a large set of documents. And then a week later, they were released. Did he post that he had an unredacted probable cause affidavit filed in support of the charges against Mr. Allen? Yes, he did. And was that before it was publicly available? I don't recall exactly. I do recall he was adamant about the fact that the PCA had two versions. There was a 1.0 and 2.0. And what we've seen, the public, was a 2.0 version. And that was, again, came from the same source that told him about the documents that were released in June. And did he claim that source was an employee of Judge Gold? Yes, he did. Did he ever identify that person? He did not. Did he attribute other leaked information to that source? Yes, he did. And what was it? He said that one was more of an opinion-based. One said that this person thought that Richard Allen was guilty, and hoped that Judge Gull kept him in Westville for a long time. Like I said, it was a PCA, version 2.0 of that. The documents that were released in June, there was no reason to believe he wasn't telling the truth because everything he was saying was right. Don't worry, Skip's going to come on here and tell all about this since it wasn't allowed in court. Skip's still in the lineup. McClellan objects. Okay. Did he identify any other sources? He did. Who? Prosecutor McClelland. Wait. First source is an employee of Gull. Second fake source, Prosecutor McClelland himself. No wonder you don't want this on the court record. And he was in communication with Mr. McClelland? He was. Judge, again, I'm going to object, says Slick Nick. I think we're outside the scope of the offer to prove. So at this point, I'm just going to object but to continue line of questioning. You would, wouldn't you? The documents would establish that Mr. McClelland and Mr. Bodette were in communication. They were trading information. Mr. McClelland said he wanted to talk to other people in the group. Mr. McClelland sent Mr. Bodette a message telling him to delete everything, so that would be the testimony. And then lastly, so he and Mr. McClelland communicated, and then other sources besides the employee of Judge Gull. Let's reread that because Hennessy is kind of stumbling here. The documents that would have been admitted but that were not allowed would establish that Mr. McClelland and Mr. Fig Bodette were in communication. They were trading information. Mr. McClelland said he wanted to talk to other people in the group. Mr. McClelland sent Mr. Bodette a message. Yeah, that would be Bella and Meerkat, Christina Mack, and Tahara Einfeld. Oh, shit, I just lost my spot. I'm a little too excited. Here. Okay. Where was it? Oh, my goodness. I believe I lost my spot. Let's go back to it. And I was deep in here. Let's see. Whew. Getting there. Okay. Let's just read it again. Documents would establish that McClelland and Mr. Bodette were in communication. They were trading information. McClelland said he wanted to talk to other people in the group. That's the two girls. Mr. McClelland sent Mr. Bodette, Fig, a message telling him to delete everything. You've seen that before. So that would be the testimony. And then lastly, there were other sources besides the employee of Gull. So there's the source, that's the employee of Gull. There's McClelland, and then there's other sources. Well, Judge, I'm going to renew the objection, says McClelland. Sustained. Of course. Then she says, the court will make your record in a summary fashion, not through this witness, because you are violating any kind of offer of proof. Okay. I absolutely respectfully disagree. The only thing I'll say is that the November 22nd of 2022 YouTube video clearly establishes that Bodette had what he called version 2.0 of the probable cause affidavit 1 week before it was ever available to anyone. And that's it. Okay? Now, let's see. We're going to get on to the Just a moment, please. I have to plug in here. I have to plug it in. All right. Question from Mr. Hennessy. Mr. Mullins. This is Steve Mullins again. Mr. Hennessy. Mr. Mullins, you described your function in the prosecutor's office organizing, discovery, and fashioning receipts as it was given to the defense. Yes. From your duties in that regard, can you tell the court approximately how many external hard drives they were given? Sitting here today, that would be hard for me to estimate, but several, probably 20, 25, something like that. And then how many flash drives? Again, difficult for me to give a quantification here at this moment without looking at my notes, but several. Maybe we could get some clarification about your questions. Was that before or after they were removed? Before and then after they were reinstated. Thank you. So before, maybe 15. Okay, thank you. That's all. Thumb drives. That's all. Any questions? No, Your Honor. Okay. Recall First Sergeant Holman. Okay, here's Jerry Holman. Hennessy says, Holman, did you obtain documents or screenshots from Mark Robert Cohen? Yes. Did he go under Funko Cohen 87? I believe so. I'm going to hand you what's marked as Defense Exhibit R and ask you to recognize it. I don't think I've ever seen those. Did you recognize it as Cohen? Again, I don't know if he went by Funko Cohen 87 or not, but I'd have to check my notes or re-interview him to see if it's actually him. Do you not fucking know this case, Jerry Holman? Because you don't seem to do anything well. How in the fuck does a YouTuber know all of these screen names? How can I get in contact? How can I call? If I want to call Tyler Carpenter right now, I could call him. I know his address. I know where his business is located. I know his wife's name and his kid's name. Yeah. I know that Cohen went by Funko Cohen 87. Do you not do your job, sir? Or is your job only executing some agenda? Again, I don't know if he went by Funko Cohen 87 or not, but I'd have to check my notes and re-interview him or see if that's actually him. Well, then did you, in talking to Mr. Cohen or reviewing his material, is it your belief that Cohen received pictures from Mr. Fortson and then Cohen put them out on the internet? Is that correct? No. Okay, what did Mr. Cohen do? He sent them to Murder Sheet. He sent them where? He sent them to Murder Sheet. Okay, did he ever tell you that he had, or did the Murder Sheet people ever tell you that he also had photographs of clothing, shoe prints, indentions from a tripod, that kind of stuff? No, I don't recall that. Again, you don't do your job? Do you know a Mike Thomas? I do. Do you know if Mr. Cohen ever told anyone that he had seen photos and notes from Mike Thomas? No. Who is Mike Thomas? Mike Thomas was the chief deputy at the time for Carroll County. I'll withdraw R. Do I need to leave that with the reporter? No, if you're withdrawing it, I'll just show it's withdrawn. Any cross? I'm sorry? Are you done with him? No, I got to find a file. Okay, hold on. You testified earlier that one of the people you interviewed referenced the leak of the probable cause affidavit for the search of Mr. Ron Logan's property. Yes. And you testified this person said they got it from Mr. Logan. In my deposition, I testified to that, yes. Have you been involved in the execution of search warrants? I have. How many? A lot. Yes. Have you ever left a copy of the affidavit? No. You've always left a copy of the actual search warrant? Yes. But never the affidavit? No, correct. Can you identify, are you familiar with the affidavit for that search? I am. And this is State's Exhibit 5, a copy of that? Yes, it is. Yes, okay. Did you ever explore or investigate why on this copy Murder Sheet is stamped? Judge, I'm going to object at this point, says McClellan. I thought he was going a different direction. I don't think this has any relevance to do what we're going to discuss today. I was giving him a little leeway, but I don't know. You're giving him leeway. But I don't know if he's going, if it's relevant. How is it relevant? I'm sorry. How is it? Well, it's relevant. One, they've opened the door because they didn't object when he testified about the Logan affidavit leak. And so that's already in, and I'm following up on it. And it goes to the extent of his investigation of this leak and his choice not to do further investigations or investigations of other leaks. He also testified talking to Miss Kane. I'm sorry, to murder sheets. Okay, who are the murder sheets people? So he talked about how he talked to them, what they gave him, and this is another document that has their little podcast thing stamped on it. I gotta tell you, he's got some funniness. He's funny. Okay, I'll move to admit it. Same objection, Judge. Admitted over objection, says Go. Oh, the one fucking time. Thanks, Go. The exhibit is admitted. That's all I have for Holman. Any cross? No. Okay. So what was admitted here was a Ron Logan PCA stamped with murder sheet. Okay. Now I'm going to very quickly. They go through Rozzi and Baldwin, but I'm going to very quickly. I'm not that interested in the rest of this because it's not really so much about the leaks, but they talk a little about Woodhouse and Westerman. How about let's start there. Did you get emails from Mr. Baldwin? This is Tarazi. Did you get emails from Baldwin the day Westerman had, or did you get an email? With regard to Woodhouse's email, were both you and Mr. Baldwin fully cooperative and truthful to the court as to what was discussed? Yes. Was the Westerman leak, did Baldwin advise you the very day that Mr. Westerman confessed to him what he had done without his permission? Rozzi says, Mr. Baldwin called me on that day, and I believe he learned of that and basically reported to me. And then, yes, we followed up and decided we were going to call the prosecutor and the judge. What was that reported immediately to the prosecution and the court? Yes, after I learned of it. What did you say? It was reported immediately after I learned of it, for sure. Well, right, but you learned of it the day Andy learned of it. I believe that's true, yes. Have you reviewed during the break the state's exhibit of 5 pictures? Yes, I had a chance to look at it during the lunch recess. And were you present for Mr. Holman's testimony that he presented with all those pictures at the deposition? Sorry, could you ask it again? Sure. It's a little hard to hear. We've got a computer between us. You want my hearing device they've been giving me? No, it's fine. I just can't really see that well. Just go ahead. Ask the question again. Were you here when Sergeant Holman testified those 5 pictures had been presented to him at a deposition at which you and Mr. Baldwin were present? I was here, yes. And over the break, did you go back and contact the court report and get all the exhibits that were presented to Sergeant Holman at that deposition? I did, yes. Were all 5 of those pictures presented to Sergeant Holman? No, they were not. Which ones were not? Can I see the exhibit? Strike that. It's under seal. Well, no, he's described what exhibit? I think 6. I'm going to hand 5. I'm going to hand you State's Exhibit 5, which has been admitted over objection. Can you please go through there and describe generally which photographs were not presented to Holman? Photographs 3 and photographs 4. Okay, I'm not going to talk about the details. Well, neither have they, but 3 and 4 is not helpful. So there's a picture, and they've already said one of the victims that has blackout marks, including a dash and a circle. Okay, that's Libby. She has a rectangle and a circle. 4, can you find that one? That's the 4th page. Okay, it was a 5-page exhibit. Was that presented to Sergeant Holman? It was not. Is that something the defense ever prepared? No, not. I haven't, and I don't believe Mr. Baldwin has, because I was part of those depositions, and I haven't seen this. So if you've never seen that before, I have not. And to your knowledge, that picture was never given to the defense. No, I literally just looked through the exhibits when I was at lunch, and this is not one of them. Okay, what was the other one? It would be the 3rd page on this 5-page, in this 5-page exhibit, which is a handwritten diagram. Looks almost maybe like, I don't know, pencil or crayons or something. Is that the handwritten alleged diagram of sticks and like a roughly drawn person with sticks placed around them? Have you ever seen that before? No, I haven't. Was that ever presented to Sergeant Holman at the deposition? It was not attached to the exhibits that I looked at that were given to us by the court reporter. Okay. It was absolutely not. Judge, I want to make a point, says McClellan, of clarification. I think Mr. Hennessy has mischaracterized Mr. Holman's testimony. I had to look back at my notes. What I remember Mr. Holman saying is that some of the photos were from deposition, not all of them, blah, 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 blah. The record will speak for itself, says Hennessy, and I guarantee he described the circle part because I wrote down that in my notes, that down with question marks. I was wondering what he was talking about. And then it came out later what he was talking about. Were you present at an unrecorded conference in chambers where the protective order was discussed? Would you say it was a gag order? I think that's what you're talking about. And I was present. And what was that discussion? The basic discussion was that Mr. McClellan, myself, Mr. Baldwin was there, I believe. I'm pretty certain former White County prosecutor Robert Guy, was present at that particular conference. I know it took place in Delphi. And I remember the discussion was prompted by lawyers communicating to the court. We felt kind of handcuffed because these orders in place and we didn't really know who we could talk to. Could you even talk to, potential witnesses, a potential witness? Could you share any information with them, to try to determine their credibility or corroborate information that they were giving you, those kinds of things? I mean, I felt like even a prosecutor, communicated that it was kind of an odd space that we were working in. And we just didn't really know, where the fog lines were, so to speak, on the road. And Judge was just kind enough, frankly, to have a discussion with us to try to define, where those lines were. And, my recollection of the conversation is basically, Your Honor told us that, this is primarily intended to keep us from releasing information to media outlets, having press conferences, to doing what I would consider more traditional media type relations in a case like this. So that was the nature of the conversation. Okay. So I'm going to skip some. So so Hennessy asks a question, and the question is, did you watch Barbara McDonald's report on Court TV? I did. In watching that, did you notice stuff that she could not have possibly come from the defense? Okay. Nicholas McClellan objects, and it's overruled this time. Okay. I saw her holding what I consider part of a report and talking about it openly. And it's certainly something that I knew was part of discovery, and it wasn't provided by me, and I'm fairly certain it wasn't provided by Mr. Baldwin because both of us were pretty surprised that she was talking about this openly. Barbara McDonald had this shit, and it wasn't from the defense. She was talking about it to the entire public. Now, wasn't there something about sticks? Well, it was the Purdue report, is what it was. I'm not even sure we had it at this point. I could be wrong, but if we did have it, it was just right close in time. But actually don't think that we even had it. I think that later, when I saw the report, when it was brought to my attention that there was this broadcast, and I watched the broadcast, and it was the report I had just gotten. I actually shared that with the court just for context. I'm going to approach you and hand you an envelope that's marked "Flash Drive Barbara McDonald Interview on Court TV." Do you recognize that? Yes, I do. And it's preserved on a flash drive. Yes. Look inside and tell me if that's the flash drive. Yes. Move to offer. Judge, same objection. Same objection. Relevance. Okay. Any response? Same response. All right. Not admitted. Not admitted. Barbara McDonald, where'd you get that? Where'd you get the Purdue report, the Turco report? Where'd you get the Jeffrey Turco? How'd you know about the odorness in the sticks? Didn't come from defense, did it? Fig Sauls. Who were your sources in Judge Gold's office? Who were your sources in the prosecutor's office other than McClellan? Who were your sources in law enforcement? Okay, I'm going to skip ahead a bit. A bunch of this stuff. All right. Cross-examination is all gaslighting bullshit. We're going to skip all through that. Let's see. I really want to finish. All right. He tries to make Andy Baldwin and Brad Rossi out to be liars. Okay. If you go and read this yourself, you'll see that he tries in his clapback, McClellan, to make them cast them both as liars, but none of it's factual. We know what is factual, and what is factual is what we've just been presenting. Okay. And it kind of all goes back to Holman. You know, if I really make it in the most concise way possible, is to say that Holman formed this connection in his mind between Westerman and Fortson, assuming that's where Fortson got everything. You know, and I don't know. Holman was not thorough. It all goes back to Holman for this reason. He was not thorough. Whether it's intentional or negligence, Holman was not thorough in establishing absolute connections forensically, digitally, and through questioning about where the stuff came from exactly. Remember, Fortson did not tell before he died. Now, I have my theory. Where this shit came from. But that's not the point here today to tell you my theory of where Fortson got a lot of this. But Fortson didn't talk. I guess we'll have to do a part 2 as a follow-up and cover some of that theory, as well as going back over some of the initial filings from the defense that showed the talking to Snay and Kyra DeBruin and Kay Smith and Tahara and Meerkat and all this whole fucking group. Okay, and Tyler Carpenter's name is brought into it. So what's funny, after McClellan does the whole, I'll read this, because after McClellan does the whole projection, and not only does it call them all liars and all this, but he goes into projecting. And I'll with the projection, I'll summarize it with this statement from McClelland, okay? Because this is him projecting about what they have actually been attempting this whole time, okay? It opened the public, the potential jury pool, and everybody up in the community up to evidence that's only presented at trial. Well, we know that your objective is to contaminate the jury pool. All of the trolls have been saying this. The trolls have been alleging this whole time since these leaks. You're going to contaminate the jury pool, contaminate the jury pool, contaminate your jury pool. But they say that in response to anyone who's speaking against the ultimate tactic, these bully tactics and the railroading. But we see clearly that the objective of this leaked material is to contaminate the jury pool. The objective of them spitting the narratives that they all do on their shows is to contaminate the jury pool. Everything is about the jury pool, potential future jurors, as I like to call them. Okay, so Hennessy summarized says, well, the hyperbole at the end has no foundation in the evidence. Boom. Like I said, he has a knack for getting down to the bottom line. That's the bottom line there. We don't know if they're still out there. We don't know if we have them. The family has to live in fear. Yet Mr. Holman, Sergeant Holman, when I'm asking him, you know, there are people reporting that other people have the photographs, but he didn't go investigate them. He didn't care. He didn't try to go get them. No, so they're still out there. They are. It's because they didn't do their job to go get them after a leak that cannot be willful on the part of Mr. Baldwin and Mr. Raza. He's not even involved with it. The press release, there's a case that states contempt isn't used to correct you if you offend the sensibilities of the prosecutor or the court. I get that. I get what they've said in their mind. The press release had a legitimate purpose of not trying the case in public. The state did the same thing, only much longer and much more detailed. Yep. It's projection. They did get tips, and it's helped the defense of Mr. Allen. It did not persuade the public, because this case has been on fire from day one. And you've had two camps, and they fight each other. They got in a fight out here. They go back and forth. They speculate. They get leaks they make leaks. So no, that did not influence the public. The email to Woodhouse, and I apologize if there's a Mr. Woodson anywhere for continuing to butcher his name. How does that violate the gag order? The gag order says public dissemination. It's a fucking accident. Guys, let me pause on this. Who else was Woodhouse talking to? Oh, you know for sure, because he put the fucking text messages on his screen. Mark Robert Cohen was in direct communication with Brandon Woodhouse. Never thought we would think of that one, did you? Happens to everybody. And you had these three extremely experienced lawyers testified that they did exactly what Mr. Baldwin did. The evidence is, and it's in Sergeant Holman's report, that within an hour, as soon as he discovered it, he contacted Woodhouse and told him to delete it. It would never cross my mind to report that to anybody because I would consider it cured. So one, it wasn't to the public. It wasn't to the media. It wasn't public dissemination. It was a mistake. It was an accident. With regard to the photos, they kept trying to connect Fortson to Baldwin. There's no evidence. In my cross-exam, I can't remember who it was, might have been Detective Rector, who's talking about the Fortson thing. There was only one reference to Andy, and it was not, I've talked to Andy. This is from Baldwin. You do have Andy, and the rest of evidence about Westerman from his 2-hour interview and other communications to the police, prosecutor, and court is that Westerman has a law degree, but he's not an attorney. He's considered by Mr. Baldwin and others to be a highly skilled strategist. Many people consult him for trial preparation. It was conceded, I think, and Mr. Rossi testified, that that was a function that was permitted by the gag order. Mr. Fortson was only connected to Westerman, and they should have produced Westerman and Fortson clearly had other sources. And so there's no direct connection from Fortson to the defense. So their whole theory of continuing the leak to the public is not founded. Yeah, and the missing link is between how does Fortson connect to Westerman and how can you prove that? Nobody fucking proved it. That's Holman's belief. What they were talking about was between Fortson and Mark Robert Cohen. Discussions between them. But everything they pointed to, the Frank's memo, everything referenced in that series, they went through. They never appeared. It never appeared in the public arena. It was never on a podcast. Yeah, but most likely it went from the other side because you got Barbara McDonald, okay, having this Turco report magically. You had Big Solves having the PCA magically. You had Murder Sheet having Ron Logan's PCA magically, and Keegan Klein's transcript magically. Where's all this shit coming from that's going to these motherfuckers? Who do I mean? Tyler Carpenter, Meerkat, Bella, Ruckus, Mark Robert Cohen, Big Solves, Murder Sheet. All of them. Where's it coming from? It's not coming from the defense. Trial courts don't have jurisdiction to enforce the rules of professional conduct. To the extent of any of this, should receive review upon a complaint to the discipline. To the extent any of this would, it should receive a review upon a complaint to the disciplinary commission. That's a separate issue. Because this is criminal. This is a criminal contempt proceeding. This court doesn't have, the trial courts don't have jurisdiction to do that. And then lastly, I was going to ask, now that the evidence is all in, if I could do a subsequent memorandum since you granted specific finding of fact and conclusion of law. I thought perhaps we'd have time before you rendered a decision. So if there's time and you're going to take some time, I would like to do a post-hearing memo. Okay. And that's it, guys. That's it. There's some more closing shit, but that's it. So, how was that for a ride? How was that for a ride through these leaks? 2 hours and 48 minutes, and I only highlighted certain portions of this hearing. It's absolute insanity. I'll tell you this much. You pretty much have everyone named who were the mass leakers. You guys understanding that word? Mass leakers? You got a couple named. No, you have a couple who were not named, but I know their names. You do have a couple, and guess what? They're troll farm. Okay, so yes, you have a couple who are not named in this, and they are troll farm. And oh, baby, I'm going to tell you their names. I already have before. You just probably weren't paying attention. But your mass leakers were all named in here, with the exception of 2. They are troll farm. Everyone in here is troll farm. Now, a friend of mine, it's just funny how God works. A friend of mine made a funny statement today, completely unrelated to this. We were not discussing this at all. This friend of mine knows nothing about Delphi. He knows what I do. Okay, he knows what I do. A friend of mine made an interesting statement because he's dealing with people on Facebook, in Facebook groups, and he calls them trolls. And he said, Prof, no, he didn't say Prof. He calls me by my name. He says, man, he says, these trolls, he says, I wish these motherfuckers would go back under the bridge where trolls belong. Blew my mind. Blew my mind. You fucking trolls, you were under the bridge. You belong under the bridge. And that's why you're trolls. Because trolls belong under the bridge. They come from under the bridge. You think we don't know that all of you motherfuckers are from the Delphi, Kokomo, Carroll County meth game? You think we don't know you're all from the meth game? We know that. You fucking trolls came from under the bridge. We're sending your ass back under the bridge because you've been busted. Okay. That conversation led me to make some funny posts today about trolls, and it's not that fucking funny. Okay. I found something interesting here. In Norse mythology, what are the odds? What are the odds? In Norse mythology, troll, like Thurs, is a term applied to the Jotnar and is mentioned throughout the Old Norse corpus. In Old Norse sources, trolls are said to dwell in isolated mountains, rocks, and caves, sometimes live together, usually as father-daughter or mother and son, and are rarely described as helpful or friendly. In an Edda book, trolls, it describes an encounter between an unnamed troll woman and the 9th century Sklod Bragi Bodson. According to the section, Bragi was driven through a certain forest late one evening when a troll woman aggressively asked him who he was. In the process of describing herself, says, "They call me a troll, moon of earth, wealth sucker of the giant destroyer of the storm sun, beloved follower of the Sirius, swallower of the wheel of sun. What's a troll if not that?" Got another one for you. In slang, Wikipedia says a troll is a person who posts deliberately offensive or provocative messages online, and or who performs similar behaviors in real life. These methods and motivations of trolls can range from benign to sadistic, which is what you are. These messages can be inflammatory, insincere, digressive, extraneous, or off-topic, and may have the intent of provoking others into displaying emotional responses or manipulating others' perceptions, thus acting as a bully or provocateur. Trolling behaviors involve tactical aggression to incite emotional responses which can adversely affect a target's well-being. In a psychoanalytic and sexologic study on the phenomenon of internet trolling, it asserts that anonymity increases the incidence of trolling behavior, and that the internet has become a medium to invest our anxieties and not thinking about the repercussions of trolling and affecting the victims mentally and incite a sense of guilt and shame within them. Concerned trolls pretend to be sympathetic to a certain point of view. Justice for Abby and Libby, Flora 4, which they are actually critical of. A concerned troll will often declare an interest in joining or allying with a certain cause, the defense, the prosecution, justice for the victims, while subtly ridiculing it. A concerned troll posts in web forums devoted to their declared point of view and attempts to sway the group's actions or opinions while claiming to share their goals, but with professed concerns. The goal is to sow fear, uncertainty, and doubt within the group, sometimes by appealing to outrage culture. Little CJ. Jinx 13. Coach Kev. Researcher Ben Radford wrote about the phenomenon of clowns in history and the modern day in his book Bad Clowns, and found that the bad clowns have evolved into internet trolls. They do not dress up as traditional clowns, but for their own amusement, they tease and exploit human foibles in order to speak the truth and gain a reaction. Like clowns in makeup, internet trolls hide behind anonymous accounts and fake usernames. In their eyes, they are like the trickster and are performing for a nameless audience via the internet. Tommy Frost. Studies conducted in the fields of human-computer interaction and cyber psychology by other researchers have corroborated Radford's analysis on the phenomenon of internet trolling as a form of deception serving entertainment and its correlations to aggressive behavior. Trolling correlates positively with sadism, trait psychopathy, and Machiavellianism. Trolls take pleasure from causing pain and emotional suffering. Their ability to upset or harm gives them a feeling of power. Psychological researchers conducted in the field of personal psychology and cyber psychology report that trolling behavior qualifies as an antisocial behavior and is strongly correlated to sadistic personality disorder. Researchers have shown that men, compared with women, are more likely to perpetuate trolling behavior. These gender differences in online antisocial behavior may be a reflection of gender stereotypes, where agentic characteristics such as competitiveness and dominance are encouraged in men, like Tommy Frost. The results corroborated that gender is a significant predictor of trolling behavior, alongside trait psychopathy and sadism to be significant positive predictors. Yes, in other words, growing up in your mom's basement playing video games. Moreover, these studies have shown that people who enjoy trolling online also tend to enjoy hurting people in everyday life, therefore corroborating a long-standing and persistent pattern of psychopathological sadism. A psychoanalytic and sexologic study, I've already read that. There's one more thing. I have to find it. Well, I'll skip it. Oh, no, here we are. It's just a very brief sentence. The weaponization of online media is an increasingly common strategy in information warfare. Although the weaponization of information itself is by no means a new phenomenon, there are several trends that seem to be occurring alongside the increasing access to information through online media and social networks. All right. All right, let's see. I just want to say hello to the chat real quick before I say goodbye. We won't be going much longer. Let's go. How about we go backwards? Sweet Dude Shibby says, trolls on this farm prefer women and children. They never contact me, just block me in avoidance. They're afraid of the Shibby. Yes. All right. Gray had Erskine picks from day one. Could you repeat that for the lurkers? Rocky Cox feeds everyone bullshit. There are also some who just won't drop their beefs and move on. Are you implying that it's me? Lead with love. Thomas Frost is getting busy. Is busy getting fitted for a bra. Thomas McTitty knockers. Yes. Okay. All right. Cave dwellers. Yes. Gray does trespass. He does, and it's funny to watch. It's funny to watch him scurry away like a frightened little mouse. Okay. That's a lot of objections sustained by Go, even when Hennessy had legitimate questions. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. I mean, it's kind of obvious. I can easily name 100 YouTubers. But yeah. Tammy Martin, welcome in, Tammy. All right, thank you, Amy, for being appreciative. I hope that this has been beneficial to everyone. I mean, I think my intention to make it brief and not a multi-part thing is so that everyone could stick with it and at least get an idea of some of the leak conversation. And like I said, more lies, because this whole thing with that oval or circle on the genitalia, you guys will never understand. You will never understand. That was placed by either Rick Snay or it was given to Rick Snay alongside the one with the squares because he had both. My belief is that he placed the oval over the square. It's my belief. Goes assistant. Do we know if that's for sure or whom it is? Yes. Where prosecutors believe law enforcement is corrupt all over, they are puppets, the same as MPs. Puppets to the elites who want us dead. You all notice the controlled demolition going on? Yes. Yeah. Have you noticed that now what they're doing in order to garner sympathy for Israel, they are now having major media attention at Palestinian protesters or protesters advocating for the stopping of the killing of Palestinians, like stomping them like ants. And on the various universities, the protests that are going on, they are inflaming them. They are bringing in they are escalating all of those so that there's a media event which is going to cause the entire consumer of the population that consumes mainstream media is going to now feel bad for the poor the poor state of Israel who's poor things like. All right. YouTubers disseminated, yes, but there were mass leakers. Okay, here's the thing. Like I said, there were a bunch of mass leakers. They're pretty much all named in there, except two. Everyone else disseminated the fuck out of them. So every YouTuber who got them then sent them to their friends, and they will fucking lie to you. Okay, the ones that I know, they wouldn't even admit it. There are a couple that would admit it, but that's the way it went down. All right. All right. Thank you guys for your comments. I'm not going back very far because we'd be here forever if I did that. All right. Hi, Erin Tom. Welcome in. Hey, yes, Aaron, go back and it's just a jaunt through the March 18th contempt hearing, focusing on the important points. Um, what up, Scott Perkins? Welcome in, Scott. And by the way, welcome in everyone. I know I didn't say hello to everyone. I was too busy reading, but Diamond Eyes, welcome in. K West, what up, K West? Welcome in. Donna Burner, welcome in. All of you guys. Jojo, this has been extremely beneficial. I missed much the other times I've heard it, learned so much today. So much more makes sense. Good. And remember, there's so much in here that it's a lot. I mean, geez, if we go all the way back to the beginning, there's a lot that people have glossed over a lot of this. Prof, Rafi, and Little Joe. Well, that's good company. If it was televised, I would believe it. Agree with Prof. Alan is involved. I think probably or likely. Who knows? We haven't seen any evidence, though. You know, that's what trial is for. That's why it should be televised. Why can't any of these people shower? They all look like a bunch of homeless, overweight homeless. All right, you guys are going back a little to say hello to people, see what people have been saying. Been saying it for a while. They're more heathens. It's amazing that there are YouTubers that have been walking around unscathed by this leak. Yeah, Kyra DeBruin. People just, oh yeah, sure, come in the chat, express your opinion. Yeah. All right, let's see. They've been trolling me on Newsbreak because I'm always dropping links telling people shit they don't know. Tammy, welcome in. The publicly viewed optics of R.A. chained, cuffed, and shackled like Hannibal Lecter tainted the jury pool, making him look guilty as fuck, cold-blooded killer. That was done on purpose. It's bullshit. Yes, I agree it's done on purpose, because even Brian Kohlberger doesn't get treated like that. He gets treated like the President of the United States, like a model for fucking, I don't know, GQ magazine. But guess what? Alan might be guilty. Okay, so maybe there's a reason that people are so pissed at him at the top. But the thing is, he's not proven guilty. Okay, if he's guilty, prove it, show it. That's a big problem with this case. Big problem. You wonder why there's so much chaos, division, outrage about this case, law enforcement? Well, let's tell you why. Because you have not shown anything to the public. Okay, so you have this guy that you claim is involved in the murders of Abby and Libby. You've shown nothing to the public to comfort them or indicate to them that he is guilty. So this will be a lesson for in the future, in years coming. It will be a big lesson to law enforcement that you had people possibly killed over these murders. You had people bullied. You had people run out of business over these murders. You had people commit suicide over these murders. You've had all kind of harm come from your lack of transparency around this Delphi murders case. And let that be a lesson to all future generations of law enforcement, that it is incumbent upon you to give the public some sort of confidence in what you are doing. Because the way that you parade Rick Allen around like that, the way you've locked him up in solitary, in a supermax, and all the shit that you have done that looks so bad, how is it not obvious to you that you are seeing these problems you're seeing? You're seeing extreme problems on social media. It has risen to the level of criminal behavior, both on social media and in real life. You have murders around this, suicides around this, and all type of shit around this. Loss of money, loss of sanity, loss of funds. Lawsuits will be forthcoming for years over the way you've handled this case publicly, much less whatever's going on behind the scenes and what will occur in the trial. So this should be a lesson for future generations, that this is the way you don't handle the release of information to the public, because you got to give the public something to show why you're treating that guy the way you're treating him as a pre-trial detainee who could be anyone's son, anyone's mother, anyone's father, anyone's wife, anyone's child, anyone's grandmother, anyone's great grandmother. You gotta show the people more. This is unacceptable. Okay. All right, let's see. If she let cameras in one time, she should have them all the time. Yeah. There's absolutely no excuse in the world why cameras can't be allowed in that courtroom. You know what it is? They don't want you to see the scumbag shit that's been pulled and that will be pulled. That's what it is. They don't want you to see how all the things the defense will bring up to show how poorly this has been handled. And they don't want you to show what type of shit the prosecution may pull. So this whole no cameras, no audio recording, no nothing, it's strategic. Good, strong cases don't require prosecution to grasp at any little straw, tar, or feather anyone who dares to ask questions. Yes, why are you colluding with Fig Solves? Why are you colluding with YouTubers to accomplish your goal? Judge Goal, Nicholas McClellan, Jerry Holman. It better get overturned and televised. It's unconscionable. What's up, Frenchy 6290? I see you. Hey, French 6290 here. I'm here listening at work. Hey, French, thanks for being here. All right, let's see. Yeah, I mean, there are people out here on YouTube that will have you believe that no one's ever been mistreated by law enforcement, that no one's ever been falsely accused, that no one's ever been falsely imprisoned or convicted. That's how bad the gaslighting is. They won't even acknowledge that any of that type of stuff ever happens. Well, I'm here to tell you myself, there are corrupt law enforcement. People are falsely accused, arrested, harassed, beat, killed, imprisoned, convicted all the time. Okay. Criminal Network, welcome in. Lisa, what up, Lisa? What up, Lisa? K West. Oh, you're having a conversation. Happens every day. Yeah. All right. So anyway, guys, I'm ready to get off of here. It's been 3 hours, but the intention was to do a show tonight. I may or may not. I may or may not do a show later tonight, but I only intended this one to be an hour and a half. So somehow we doubled up. Somehow we got to 3 hours. But I thought I would do a short one this afternoon and a regular show tonight. So maybe I'll flip that over. Who knows? But it's nuts. It's absolutely nuts. Scott says Joe caught on. Joe was busy with other stuff. Yeah, I agree. All right. Joe is extremely busy. So am I. You know, we both got families to take care of. Okay. All right. Unlike many of the trolls, we actually have viable sperm. That Joe said the other day they're shooting blanks. He's right. I mean, the thing is, we actually have viable sperm. So we have procreated, and so we have families, and we have to take care of our families, and life is difficult, and we have businesses. Joe and I are both independent businessmen. We have business to take care of and work to do, and it's just never enough time, never enough hours in the day. Anyhow, thank you guys. Oh, thank you, Rafi, for being here. I see Rafi. Yeah, Rafi. We can be free. Everyone in here, thank you so much for being here. If you were here much earlier and I missed you, sorry to miss you. Nobody, nothing was here. Uh, Lambert Co was here. What's up, Lambert? Precascent was here. Bonnie was here. There's lots of people. Digital was here. I didn't get to say hi. Jack out the box. Anyone who old Mart, new Mart, anyone I haven't said hello to, you know I mean to say hello to you. My throat's killing me though. It's been a lot of talking, so I'm ready to close it down. But good to talk to you all, and good to share that with you. And hopefully, anyone is uninformed on this stuff, share this video with them and say, hey, it's a quick way to catch up. You put it on 1.5 speed, you can probably catch up in 2 hours. So let people get caught up on this case. Okay. For 6 years, the secret was kept till the memorandum came out. Yeah, but here's the thing, Criminal Network. It's not the whole secret because there's more. So that's the thing that I'm waiting on the defense. It's like, okay, guys, yeah, sure. You showed some of the Vinlander stuff. Now there's a next level. Okay, there's more. Thank you, Bonnie. Yeah, I see. That's why I do this. That's why I do this. That's why I do this for you guys to learn a little. If I can help you get through that. So thanks so much for being here. K West. Okay, you guys are making up. Thank goodness. Okay. Did anyone have a count of how many have lost their lives involved in this case? More than you want to count. I think 2 handfuls. All right, guys. So we're out of here. And nobody, nothing. Jojo, please hit the like. Give me that much. Become a member. Buy some artwork. I don't know, but send a super chat. Do whatever you like to support the channel. More important than anything, participate in the chat. You know, come back when I'm on. Come back. Participate in the chat. That makes things work here. So we need you to keep going. So thank you very much. Seems like they're getting to the more. I hope they get to the more. We got a lot fucking more. We got a lot more. Okay. Holman is a habitual liar. He told me personally that Ron Logan, Brad Holder, Patrick Hall, and all of his fields were double and triple checked and have been cleared. No. What they call clear is believing someone was at work. Believing. Oh, I believe they were at work. Just like Holman believed that Fortson got them from the defense. All right. All right. Cheers to you guys. We'll be out of here. Thank you, Diamond Eyes. Yes, everything should be documented. All right. I'm glad to see you all conversing. I'll leave the chat open 5, 10 more minutes while I get on out of here. That way, you guys can continue your conversation another 5, 10 minutes, and I'll go get something to drink because my throats are killing me. So we'll peace out, you guys. I love you guys. See you soon. See you soon.